We are still setting up and people are still coming in, so what we'd like you to do is feel welcome to this very, very special day. If you remember this day 3 years ago, you'll probably feel the same way that I do, that it was a learning moment. It was a time for us to start reflecting and thinking about our future in regards to reimagining policing. So what I want to do now is to have you, as people continue to come in, feel free to have refreshments, bring it to your table, and then we'll get started with the program. But I want to say very, very seriously, from my heart to yours, if I can have your attention for one moment, because I want you to hear this from my lips to your ears. Thank you for coming to be with us, to share in this opportunity for learning, teaching. I want to make sure that word got in there, healing, because that is what we need to do. So the fact that you took time to here today on a holiday weekend, let's give yourselves a hand for that. Because you could be at home, you could be on a vacation. For those of us that work in the helping profession, whether it's executive directors of programs or chiefs of police and other first responders, you really like those 3-day weekends. So the fact that you are here today really warms my heart and tells me that you're as serious as I am about making a difference. And that's what this is about, making a difference. The 3rd annual George Floyd Community Engagement and Building is our theme today. Our esteemed guest speakers will be sharing information in regards to their area of expertise. You'll have an opportunity to have interaction when the panelists are speaking, because we want to have the community be a part of this solution. Do you agree that the community needs to be a part of the solution? Yes? So with that in mind, that's our opportunity. We have a program that has been just absolutely wonderful currently here in the city of Seaside that involves law enforcement, police, actually the name is public safety officers, and that change from police officer to public safety officers says a lot right there. So I want to applaud 2 people right now for having worked with them to help make a difference. There's actually 3, but these 2 are very important. They'll be speaking today. And that is, of course, Mayor Ian Oglesby. Thank you for getting together with myself, Jake Osborne. Where's Jake? Jake, stand up. From the Village Project, Dr. Shira Diallo. Please stand. Chief Nick Borges. And we decided to develop a program that involves community engagement. We've already reimagined policing. So now we're moving on in that effort to make a difference, because now we're ready to. May 25th, 2020 will etch in my mind forever. I can't unsee that day, but I can allow it to help me, to motivate me, to inspire me, to work with all of the individuals that we have here today to help make a difference. Today is a day of teaching, learning, and healing. Because when we're doing that, that's what usually occurs. So without going on too much more, I would like to have this earth blessed by one of my best friends, and probably yours too, the mayor of Sand City, Marianne Carbone. Marianne, would you please come up?
Haku haku, lau wash washets, matika Marianne, Kishan Chumash, Kishan Whistler. Sorry. Seaside oil. Good morning, how are you? My name's Marianne Carbone. I would like to firstly thank Jacqueline for the invitation to open up with this land acknowledgement. It's wonderful to be here in my hometown, even though I just live across Del Monte in Sand City. This is my town where I grew up and was raised. My ancestors migrated to this area and lived here amongst the Esalen, Costanoan, and Aloning for generations. And as you know, I am Sand City's first female Indigenous mayor. I'm a culture bearer, leader, and it's an honor to be here today. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the first people of the land, the Esalen people and their ancestors, the ones who have inhabited this earth for many eons. I ask that whenever you come here, to whether it's to work, play, or visit, just to please remember the ancestors of the first peoples and of this beautiful land. We only have one Earth Mother. Let's take care of her so that we could have her give us a good home for many, many, many generations to come. So with that, I'd like to say a prayer in my Chumash language. So I'm Chumash, and we've moved here. Our family's been here a couple, 200, 300 years. Ke nono he alape. Good heel uku, ka oxhiel alape, ka oxhiel shoot, ka oxhiel swampin, ka kilik heel alape, kilik heel shoot, kilik heel swampin, kilik heel unku, ka hak tak heel alasa. That is our prayer to Grandfather above. You see us and the people. You bring the sun and the moon. We love the sky, the land, and the ocean. You watch over the heavens, the ocean, and the people. We believe and we pray. May Creator bless each and every one of you for being here today and guide you with an open heart and acknowledgement of what we're all about. With that, I just want to give thanks to the mayor of Seaside, Ian Oglesby, and for all of the everyone who's here, law enforcement. It's great to see such support, and Marina as well, and our district attorney. So wonderful. I just wanted to give Jacqueline something that was handed down from me from a tribal elder holy man. And this is a little basket here that, you know, she carries a lot with her. So as mayor of Sand City, I'd just like to pass this on to her, and may it bless her and all the work that she does in our community, because she is one heck of a lady.
Thank you so much. I'm honored. Just trying to keep up with you, Mary. As you know, there's many people here today that continue to, to provide an opportunity for all of us to work together, and that's what today is about, is to make that happen. So I want to take this opportunity to extend a blessing to us all, and that's from Pastor Matthew Irving, that is not able to be here now, so I want to keep things rolling. So I just want to take a moment to have everyone just bow your heads if you feel, and just bless the day, embrace the day for the opportunity that it may have. We've already won. We're here. We've acknowledged the problems and concerns that there are in the community today. We can't continue to go back, but we can't forget what has happened in the past. Let this day be one that we continue to strive towards our theme and goal today, which is teaching each other, learning about each other, and then in fact healing. Because I actually believe we have so much more in common than differences. Would you agree with me on that? And the point that I want to maybe carry on and just say as well is there's a lot of wonderful, supportive police officers out there protecting and serving every day. So many more than there are those that cause problems that then focuses on law enforcement and causes many people to feel that law enforcement as an industry, as a first responder, are not doing their job or doesn't care. I've worked in this field for 4 generations. My family, 4 decades. My great-grandfather, my father, my 2 older brothers. And I'm so glad to see my deceased brother's wife here, Joyce Simon. Please give Joyce a hand. I believe that if my brother was alive, he'd be very proud and he'd be right up here with us, Jean Simon. So on that note, I want to just say thank you again for being here. What I'd like to do is while we have this opportunity, is to bring up the mayor of our city to share a little bit more about what we've been doing and what the county has been doing, what the city has been doing, working together in this effort, and the police department, of course. So, Mayor Ian Oglesby.
She threw me for a loop there for a second. She said she's been working here for 4 generations. I was like, hey, I knew you in the first one. Right? Are we aging a little bit too fast? But I want to just say that's my way of just thanking her for her leadership and what she's doing. I have to go work about that. Before I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our Mayor Pro Tem, David Chaco, is here. Raise your hand, David. I believe I see Councilmember Garcia-Zola in the back. And I know Councilmember Burks said she had a family commitment, conflict in taking her son to the airport. So she would be here if she could. I do want to say to the DA, I appreciate you being here. I didn't get a chance to probably say hello to you at the memorial service for victims and survivors, but I want to say excellent program. It's good to be there. The City of Seaside is proud to be one of the growing list of sponsors of the 3rd Annual George Floyd Symposium of Community Engagement and Building Bridges, with the theme of teaching, learning, and healing, a labor of love of Jacqueline Simons, and a vision of hers for a safer community. And she just gave us kudos for, the initial team, but in between those team meetings, guess who's keeping it going? Guess who's bringing us all together? It's Jacqueline and her team members. So I just want to, we can give her another hand. In response to the tragic murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis on May 25, 2020, our City Council recognized the urgent need for a meaningful change in how Seaside approach law enforcement and community policing. We have embarked on a transformative journey from community policing as a model to what I call community safety. One that ensures our residents are active participants on how they are served and protected, how that safety is provided and enforced, with justice and equity in their city. Our commitment to change is demonstrated through various initiatives that we have taken since George Floyd's murder, including annual budget line items of over $500,000 dedicated to social service grants for local nonprofits, or new city programs that increase investments in our youth and family programs. These small grants are specifically designed to support innovative programs that use best practices to uplift and advance underserved communities towards opportunities of self-improvement, economic growth, and individual resilience. We have increased our investment in youth leadership and mentorship, doubled our summer youth job program to over 50 individuals every year. I believe that's the largest, if not the only one in the county at that level. We funded community indoor and outdoor art projects, increased our funding into our parks and other musical programs and other programs that build healthier communities. I asked the council to embrace the recommendations of the President Obama's 21st century on policing by asking them to adopt the 6 pillars as guiding principles. And under the leadership of Chief Borges, the city has turned a corner in our policing model. Allow me to briefly highlight the progress we have made over the past year. The first pillar is building trust and legitimacy. The police department has become more open and transparent. I think some of you guys have seen that on our social media sites. Not only the times where you see officers, I wanted to say exactly what we would say, engaging, right? But it's really playing. When one of our officers, see young people playing basketball or challenge a young person to race down the street, in full gear, and sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses, the individual that experienced that, that young person that experienced that or sees that, they don't say how that officer engaged with us. It's how that officer is playing with us, how the officer is communicating with us, how the officer is into the community. And sometimes when you guys see that, you should say that's a good idea to do. Because we don't want the only time that we engage with our residents is when you're doing something wrong and I need to enforce some rules. We do too much of that. We share the values of transparency, respect, unity, service, and training, which we believe will lead to trust of our officers where it's needed, most importantly on the streets of our city. Another pillar is policy and oversight. We have established a Community Safety Advisory Commission that meets monthly to review policies and actively engage with our community to ensure their voices are heard and concerns are addressed. Pillar 3, technology and social media. The police department has increased its presence, which I talked about already, and educating the community effectively. I think over the last few months you may have seen the chief on social media a little bit more about what's going on in the community. We had a couple community incidents, and the chief was right there to say, hey, don't come in this area, it's unsafe right now, or this is what's going on, or this situation has been resolved. Normally that wouldn't happen. You have to read it in the paper 3 or 4 days later or see it on the nightly news at 10 o'clock. But the chief has been actively engaged in making sure there's information he believes needs to be put out and can be put out at that time. He's right there to do it or have one of his team members do it. We use more drones I think some of you guys heard about our license plate reading technology to reduce the need for a large physical presence. When you talk about, hey, maybe we have too many police officers, these license plate readers and those drone technologies allow us maybe not to have as many officers as other communities say they need. Pillar number 4, community policing and crime reduction. New initiatives like the Lights On program, where if you have a broken tail light or something like that, you can come down to City Hall, get a voucher to fix it, and I believe that voucher, Chief, is up to $250, and some are still available. And nonviolence diversion program, we're working together again with Jacqueline and another team member to try to initiate another youth diversion program. I think that'll be our second one in the community. We would, I guess that's news to the DA, and I just want to make sure I'm going to ask for her support a little bit later down the road when we get a little bit better by it. But that's what we've been doing over the last 12 months. This is all over the last 12 months. What I try to do at this symposium is update you, not just tell you what we would like to do. I'm going to tell you what we've been doing, and each year it should be something new, and it should be something that's impactful. Pillar number 5 is training and education. Seaside is transforming its police force to actively collaborate with the residents to improve community safety, fostering trust again, and mutual respect. Our officers are receiving more training and career pathway opportunities, and that's, again, underneath the leadership of our police chief. If our officers feel more engaged, more invested in our community because we're invested in them and their careers and their future, they're more than likely willing to stay with us. As they grow with us, then they will continue to know the community better. And then hopefully we just get a force that's been here 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and they know and grow up with our young people and with us. The last pillar is officer wellness and safety. We will continue to prioritize mental health and wellness at every level of our departments to ensure the well-being of our officers. It's very important that they feel as though the city is part of them and they're part of this community. While we acknowledge that progress is an ongoing journey, there is still work to be done. Seaside's response to the murder of George Floyd exemplifies our community's resilience, determination, and commitment to justice. Together, we have demonstrated that positive change is achievable, and we have created a future where every resident feels valued, heard, included, and safe. In closing, I extend my gratitude to all of our local law enforcement, and I really appreciate all of our chief police here today and other members of their departments, and I know a few others probably couldn't be here, but we appreciate you guys every day, your commitment to providing safety to all of your communities in a fair and equitable manner. And as speakers here today, I look forward to your dedication to reimagine policing and working together towards a more just and equitable society. Let us continue to stand together in our efforts to reimagine policing and ensure the fair and equal treatment of all members of our community. And I know that's what we're here to do today, and that's just my report to you as mayor of the city of Seaside and what we're doing along our journey to reimagine policing. Like Jacqueline said earlier, we've turned the corner. For us, there's no reimagining. We're taking action steps to provide community safety, and we will continue to do that year after year, year after year. Before I end, I do want to acknowledge, I think I see Dr. Jeannine Gus out there, and I just want to acknowledge her as a good friend of our community. So, thank you. Jacqueline, you got a hand right there from the Honorable Ruth Watts.
Yes.
On behalf of all of the ladies here, we would like to acknowledge our First Lady of the City of Seaside, Mrs. Oglesby.
And in addition to, and there's so many of you that I consider dignitaries, you all are. if you came here today, you're giving up your weekend possibly, or a holiday, as I mentioned earlier. So thank you all for coming, for being a part of this, because that's how we get this done, is all working together. I'm so glad that Mr. Wenham was able to come from the Public Defender's Office as well. And there's just a host of individuals here. But at this point, I want to introduce, I'm hoping he's here, he's trying to rearrange his schedule in order to participate with me in one of the main reasons why we are here. One of the main reasons why we are here is to acknowledge our youth of promise and public safety officers that have been working with me for the past year in the area of community engagement. And it has been phenomenal. It's just a wonderful experience. Some of the safety officers aren't here because they had scheduled vacations on this holiday as well. But for those that are here, we want to honor them. And we certainly want to honor those youth of promise. And before they come up, I want to see if Congressman Jimmy Panetta's executive is here. I'm looking around. Is he here? Emmanuel Garcia. He said he was going to try to drive over from Scotts Valley program that they're working on there. So if he does get here, we'll have him be a part of it. But I don't want to hold up the most important part of what we're doing today, and that is acknowledging these two groups of people that came together for the past year and have shown that this is how we get it done. So as I call their names, feel free to clap and high five or whatever you would like to acknowledge the fact that they are our future. They are doing what we need to have done in all communities. So I believe the City of Seaside is a pilot for this. First, we have Diadome Dumagbo. Next, we have Didalo Dumagbo. We also have Zaina Diallo, Zachariah Alexander, Isaac Castro Calvo, Gian Mitchell, Jordan Webb, DeMarcus Brown, and Kennedy Davis. So at this time, I would like the Honorable Mayor of Seaside, Chief Nick Borges, to join me here as we acknowledge these wonderful, awesome youth, because this has been a phenomenal year of volunteerism, and that's huge.
Hey, looking good.
All right. I also believe it's very important to have Jake L. Osborne up here. He's one of the Elevate new individuals that has worked with us, because it takes people that understand and that can make that connection. And these youth are our youth of promise, and they're ambassadors to other children in their high schools and their grade schools to share their relationship that they had for the past year with these awesome officers that are going to be coming up in a moment. So, Mr. Osborne, did you want to have anything to say at all?
I'm going to let Jordan say a few words.
Jordan, absolutely.
First and foremost, everybody, I just want to say I'm really thankful and proud to even accept this award for me and my little brother. I try every day, and even Marina, Seaside, Monterey, wherever I'm at, just have a positive attitude everywhere I go. And I think it's important for all the kids and the youth to have officers and all that, and everybody in the community just have a good experience together. And overall, sorry guys, yeah. But, But yeah, overall, I just wanted to really say thank you to Oz here and everybody and the youth that allowed me to even, be up here with everybody and my brother. And thank you guys. I just want to say thank you. Thank you.
I want the law enforcement people in the room to really hear what was just said. And I think we all heard it when that young man almost broke down, right? How long is he going to remember that positive interaction with that law enforcement people? And we want to appreciate our chief for making it happen. And we know you guys can make it happen in your community, but I just want to put a little pin there. That little work will help these people. They have friends, they have members of their family, they have buddies, they have girlfriends, and they have influence. And how do we break that cycle? And so I want to thank all of you for volunteering to participate in this program. Thank you.
Wonderful.
I also just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity because it gives us an experience to see law enforcement more of just people and seeing them for who they are, and just giving us the different perspectives to see different jobs and positions that you can have in the world and still be a human and connect with the youth and your community on a level that's more personal and not just you're doing your job and then you're done, but connecting with people.
It warms my heart to stand here and honor you, because we've been a part of this. Dr. Diallo, Dr. McWaters, Jake, Pam Bonsper, a number of volunteers, and we've seen you in action. Know that we've learned from you. Really, do you feel that? Right there. Because it takes heart. And to stand here in front of all these people, and some you know, some you don't, really says a lot to me. So I'm a professor. If you're in my class, you're getting an A right now. So on that note, I'd like to invite up some, yes, let's give them a hand. And before I have the chief say a few words, I want to invite some of the awesome officers that have, literally volunteered or taken their time during this past year to participate. So I'd like to have Ruben Polito. Brian Vasquez. Zachariah Alexander. We have several others that are on duty right now, but we want to honor those that are here today. Please, a round of applause for these gentlemen. For those of us that were part of some of the training and part of the activities, I'm sure Mr. Osborne could probably mention, and Dr. Diallo can share as well. Some of those experiences were so heartwarming. What I decided to do is to buy Subway sandwiches, inviting a lot of police officers or public safety officers and youth of promise. And we just got to know each other. 2 hours having sandwiches and then having activities, learning about each other. We had contests of who could find out the most about each other. Remember those? Those were awesome. The person that had the largest number of skills or activities received a gift card. So we motivated them, they shared with us, and we continued to have wonderful discussions about that. So I know that the two of you are here representing the rest of you. Know that we so appreciate it. Know that I so appreciate this. And one of the motivations of this program that we developed, that Ms. Diallo also worked with me on naming it the Ambassadors Program, is something that this chief said to me when I first met him. And that was at one of my good friend, Councilman Pacheco. You were his guest speaker. And I said to you, what are we going to do about those youth that say, why do police hate us so much? And you promised me then that that's not going to happen here in this city. And you said, whatever we can do to embrace that, we will. Part of embracing that was allowing your officers to come and volunteer with us and all the work that you did. So I'll let you say a few words, but know that that meant a lot to us. Other cities need to pilot and learn how to do this, because this is how it's done. Getting to know each other, humanizing each other. I want these youth to run to police officers for help instead of away from police officers. Does that make sense? So that is the bottom line of this chief and others in this community. I'm working with Chief Hober as well, of course the new police chief in Marina, who's going to be speaking, Chief Hopkins, and the new Sand City police officer there at chief. So thank you all for what you're doing, and this is how it's done. You want to say a few words? Yeah, you are, but I just didn't know if you wanted to.
Yeah. So thank you very much. Very briefly, I give credit to the police officers who volunteered their time to engage with the youth, and it is a promise that we keep here in Seaside, and we can't promise results, but we absolutely promise effort. So we appreciate the effort, everyone coming together and giving us an opportunity to bridge our relationship. So thank you so much.
And on that note, they can now leave, but let's give them a big hand back.
Hi, my name is Shira Diallo. I just wanted to say about the program from a parent perspective. The thing that I wanted to say and thank the city of Seaside for is having a space for our kids to go after school, something to be excited about, and that the program wasn't so heady. There wasn't a lot of high complex concepts. They were really playing, as the mayor mentioned. They were competing. They were doing exercises and activities and talking about music and video games and what high schools they went to. And I went to all of the sessions as a nosy parent, because that's what I am, a pushing parent, that's what I am, and a loving community member. And what I learned the most was we do live in a village, and it is a beautiful one. My child and myself, we value the relationships that we built with the City of Seaside police members. Also, I learned about those of you who are interested in real estate or psychology, two things that I love, and I was able to pour into those cups as they were pouring into my high school child's cups and my younger children's cups as well. I have a kindergartner who loves first responders, and he was at these sessions too. He's not getting a Congressional special award like the high schooler and middle schoolers are, but the impact is great. And I just want to thank you all, and I want to just highlight the fact that the kids come from different schools throughout the county. So we have a superintendent here, and you should know that these kids have been ambassadors. And all of the special programs that all of our connected cities sponsor, the kids, when they see the officers there, they're high-fiving them, and they're telling them things, and they're telling the story of what we're doing here to their classmates and in the community. So this was just so wonderful, and I had to say something. I never speak at events, but I had to say something about this. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, Dr. Helen Diallo just received her doctorate degree 3 days ago. And then I shared that with our group when we were having our basketball game at the Boys and Girls Club, And thank you, Mr. Anthony, for allowing us to go and enjoy that beautiful environment. When I shared that with the students, they gave her a rounding yelp when I said, and you can be a doctor too. And what did you all say? Yes, you could, right? Great. So that's what we're doing, planting seeds.
Well, I have a question for our youth today. Well, actually, I have two questions, if that's okay. The first question is, can any one of you or all of you share with us what was the most impactful part of the program? What will you remember for years to come? That's the first question. And the second question, did your participation in this program inspire you to consider public service in your future?
I think the most impactful thing was just the connection between each other. Like, if the youth and officers and everybody can just get along and like with one, then I think it'll be better for the community because everybody just will know each other and it will keep the kids like safe and not in trouble, doing the right thing. And also just having fun as a kid, you know, that's definitely a thing that kids will remember. It's like a core memory for them. And down the line, when they get older, they'll just know what's right and what's wrong.
When I was younger, I always thought being a police officer and a firefighter was fun because I always saw them in action and stuff. So yeah, I think so, yeah.
All right.
Hi, I'm Reverend Raciel McWhorter, and I was volunteering with these youth and peace officers, and it was very impactful for me. It was so heartwarming and such a surprise to see how well they connected with one another. It was a beautiful thing. And I want this to continue, so I encourage everyone to be a part of it. And Jacqueline, is it okay if I talk about the peace thing here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, my part of the program was bringing the Pledge to Peace canvas here. And the idea is for everyone to think about in their heart, what can I do? And not just what can I do, but what will I do to promote peace in the community, peace between the different ethnicities, peace between the different religions, and understand that it is our responsibility. You know, we can't say that they should do something. It's like, what can I do? And I would like everybody to think about that and write it on this canvas. My ambition is for this canvas not to have any white space, because all the members of the community have made their pledge to peace here, written. And even if you write over someone else's, yours is there, and it's a promise. And that's what I would like everyone to do before they leave out of here. And I've got markers here and a little hand sanitizer to wash your hands if you get something on them. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Also, for the record, Dr. McWhorter's just received her Ph.D. a week ago. So proud of you all volunteering your time with us. Know that those portraits, she's a painter as well, and Pam Boxfer, and Dr. McWhorter's is donating these pictures to us so you can auction them off at the end of the day. And those funds will go towards the Helen Rucker Center for Black Excellence. It's a wonderful college environment, wonderful center at CSUMB that helps to foster and bring on students from the local communities to stay here in Monterey County and go to CSUMB as opposed to going somewhere else. So thank you for your gift. Please give her a hand for that. And before I have Mr. Emmanuel Garcia, who made it over the hill, left another program representing our wonderful Congressman Jimmy Panetta to come over and say a few words, and he's gonna actually share Jimmy's comments. But I want to make sure I have this other officer, public safety officer that made it here to come on up and us give him a high five, and that's Jonathan Martinez. Please.
Great, thank you.
Alrighty then, the next opportunity we have is to hear from our Congressional representative here from Congressman's office.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I must say that I am incredibly proud of all of our students here for stepping up and being part of this program. It's really important in the community to have, trusted messengers, fellow people that have had positive interactions with police, be able to talk to somebody else and say, well, perhaps that was not my experience. And, you can't talk to a police officer and you can't communicate with them, and they are helpful. So bravo, thank you so much for doing that. I really am proud of you, and Congressman Panetta is also incredibly proud of you. And also have to give, congratulate our chief for stepping up and making this happen, and also to Jacqueline and our parents for making this happen. Things just don't come together. We are not here at a chance, right, on a Saturday afternoon, just because we thought, hey, I'd like to stop by. A lot of work had to take place for us to be here, and a lot of our community leaders and our students and our parents and our chief and our officers had to come together and all work together to make it happen. So things don't just occur, it is the heavy lifting of our community that makes it so. I believe Kennedy said, if not us, who? If not now, when? And I think that's a call that we have all answered here today. I also want to share words from Congressman Panetta that he asked me if I could share with you all today. He has some short remarks, and they are the following. As the United States Representative for Seaside and California's 19th Congressional District, I am proud to recognize the organizers and participants of the 3rd Annual George Floyd Community Engagement and Building Bridges Symposium. Events like this, which bring together educators, law enforcement, and leaders, are important to strengthening the bonds of our community and continuing the necessary work to protect the civil liberties of all Americans. This past week, I joined my colleagues in reintroducing the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act, critical legislation to bolster transparency and reform law enforcement training and mitigation measures. I believe that securing freedoms and rights for the next generation requires us not only to recognize and call out injustice, but take action to create meaningful change. Impactful dialogues like this are essential to organizing and mobilizing us as a community. I look forward to continuing to fight alongside you for vulnerable and marginalized communities, as well as work at the federal, state, and local level to ensure that all Americans are provided equal protection under the law. Thank you.
I know you have to go, but I did say, don't leave before you try one of my mother's favorite desserts that my good... I know, that my good friend Ms. Shirley Marie. Let's give her a hand. She's a caterer. She's just written a book, Cajun Wonderful Soul Food, and she created this very special sweet potato with pecans dessert that my mother created and made many times. So when she said she would do that, it warmed my heart, and you're going to love it, I believe.
Just very briefly, I'd like to know if the program changed your opinion of law enforcement or the opinions of any of your peers that you've been able to influence?
So like, I remember back in like, I think I was in 4th grade, it was during like COVID, and there was like the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff of that nature, like George Floyd's death and things like that. And I used to think like police were horrible, like they were just against us. And like as I like joined this program, it kind of like opened my eyes. So like now I can kind of see and like connect with them and see that they're really here to like serve and protect us, and they're not like trying to be our enemy. They really just want to be our friends.
I couldn't have said it any better. And do we have a patient chief of police or not? All right, Mr. Borges, you've done so many wonderful, great things and people know about you, but please come up and share anything else you'd like to know and say.
I just want to start off by saying we are not perfect at Seaside Police Department, but we're here. We're here. So I always want to preface that because there is a lot of work to be done. We are not perfect. We recognize that, and we want to be better. And we will identify when we have errors and mistakes. And I want to, of course, thank the team, Seaside PD, who have devoted their time to engage the youth. I'm so glad that last question was asked because that was beautiful, the response. That is what this really is all about. So thank you. I also don't want to lose sight of why we're here today. So we'll go back to May 25th, 2020. And I'm just going to share just a personal story, and I shared this last year as well. It was COVID. We were locked down. I was in this little room in my house working out with no noise on the TV, just the TV going on a news station. And the images started to appear over and over and over and over again. And at first it didn't really capture my eye because I thought maybe this was a small glimpse of an incident involving the police. But I was just curious why this officer was on top of George Floyd. And when I stopped and I really started to look at this, I could see it wasn't just a clip and then going back and a clip and going back. This was a constant ongoing time where this officer was on top of him. And I found myself yelling at the television, "Get off. What are you doing? Get off. Get off. What are you doing? Get off." And we all know the end result in that situation. It was really troubling, and it affected the entire country. Everybody was at home watching this. Everybody saw this, whether it was on social media or the news or whatever it may be. This changed our country, this incident. And I wish I could tell you since then that law enforcement as a profession got it. We got it now. We recognize that, just like Rodney King and so many others before. Tyree Nichols. How did we not see that coming? I mean, we're not talking about just an isolated incident. We're talking about a beating, a criminal beating of a young person for driving violations. Again, Seaside PD is not perfect. And it is very easy for law enforcement to look at other law enforcement entities when the things happen in their communities. It's very easy when Tyree Nichols was beaten to death. It's very, very easy for law enforcement leaders to stand up before you and say the generic statements that many police chiefs may say. Things like, "We do not condone what happened. We train rigorously to ensure these things do not happen, and we will hold those accountable," and blah, blah, blah. It's too rehearsed. There's no emotion to it. There's no realness to that. That bothered me. Through our PD, we wrote an open letter to Tyree Nichols. That's what we did. We wrote an open letter to him after his passing, and we were blessed to hear back from his mother. And I'll rewind a little bit. I was a patrol sergeant right here in our briefing room, and Philando Castile's case is the George Floyd of his time. It was the first case that social media, it was Facebook, went live where Philando's girlfriend and her young child in the back seat started streaming live on Facebook an interaction during a traffic stop. And that video went extremely viral. And we know what happened in that video. Philando was legally armed with a concealed weapon. Philando had already provided identification to a police officer. He was stopped for having a blown taillight. And while he's reaching his glove compartment, he did, and we know this now because we know his mother, Valerie, very well. His mom told him, whenever you have this weapon on you, legally, you tell the police you have it. You let them know so there's no accidents. You let them know this. So you can hear him telling the officer in a very calm voice, just to let you know, officer, I do have a gun on me. And the officer goes from a traffic stop to extreme adrenaline, gun is out, screaming, don't reach for it, don't reach for it. And Philando, who is an upstanding citizen, engaged in the school, would buy food for kids at the cafeteria, a mentor in his community, is telling the officer, I'm not reaching for it. He's going for his paperwork, not his waistband. And the officer shoots him 5 times and kills Philando Castillo on video, all on video. It's appalling to me. But that's the negative stuff. I want to air that out from my perspective in law enforcement because I don't want to lose sight and I don't want anyone here to think we've lost sight of why we're here today. We've made a difference in Seaside, and our mayor, we're so blessed to have him and the support. All of these things you see here, if we didn't have our mayor and our city council, none of this would be happening. Zero. We wouldn't be at the Oldemeyer Center in Seaside. We wouldn't have these types of programs. The ideas that come from our department wouldn't ever come to life. So we appreciate our mayor and city council for always supporting us. I'm going to just briefly speak about some of the things that we're doing in some detail. I won't take too much of your time, but it's important to understand. To close the loop with Philando, we invited Valerie Castillo, who is a close friend of mine now. I speak to her regularly. I just drafted a letter of appreciation. There's a community art center that's being built in Falcon Heights, and they devoted a segment of that to art for the community to express themselves in honor of Philando. And I wrote a letter to their city manager just last week because Ms. Castillo had asked me to do so, and I will never say no to her. She came to Seaside. She came to our city. Seaside remains the only city that she has ever come to when a police department launched the Lights On program. This is the only place she has come to. We are the second city in the state of California to adopt Lights On. We're the smallest one, the only one in Northern California. More are adopting this more and more, but it really is grant funded. Our budget pays a small portion of it, and we give out vouchers instead of tickets for violations. We still do traffic stops. I want to be clear about that. We still do traffic stops, but you don't need to be pulled over for me to let you know that your light is broken. You can come, as the mayor said, to City Hall, to the police department. The only rule we have in the police department, it kind of ties into the youth that were just up here. If you come in for one, it won't be somebody just working at the records department. A police officer will come in, they're going to meet you, you're going to show them the violation, you're going to get to know them briefly, and they're going to give you a voucher valued up to $250. And we have 8 now different shops in Seaside who all get to meet you as well. When you go to their shops at your choice, you get to pick which one you go to, and they will take care of your light issue up to $250. That is a huge, huge thing here. And again, as the mayor spoke, he breezed over some of these things, but it's so important to understand this. We now have Derek Elder here. He has a team. We have a family and community support team, essentially social services that are designed to respond to police calls that don't require a police response to avoid conflict and bad situations. That came from the mayor and city council. I can tell story after story of how effective that team has been in preventing police from even responding to things that we don't need to. There are certain things we do not need to respond to. The Community Safety Advisory Commission, again, that's our city council and mayor. That came from them. And we have a Community Safety Advisory Commission. We meet monthly, and it is highly effective. A lot of hot topics. There's three, I think, commissioners that are here. Would you please stand if you're on the CSAC team here? Please stand. I know Mimi was here earlier. I don't see her now. Going back to another thing that we did early on in the George Floyd, before the law passed, we were the first in the region, and probably one of the first in the states. I can't say that certainly, but absolutely in the region. We banned the chokehold here locally at the city of Seaside. We are currently in talks with an organization called Strategies for Youth, and it's geared towards a policy of how to engage our youth in an effective manner and understanding a lot of the science-based things about young people and how their development is or their background. That gives us some tools to help de-escalate situations and understand why a young person may run from us right away or may say no to us. That's something we are in the process of. We started a CHAMP program, and that is a Change, Hope, Accountability, Mentoring program. And that is essentially what you saw here today, and this is really geared towards understanding what police and fire do. And you get to interact at the police department if you're on our side of the house, and it's really fun. The things you learn, CPR, swimming, things you may not get to do. We're doing field trips and a variety of things, so we have got to be better at engaging our young people. Because what that young man said to me, that is honestly, I didn't want to be a cop, I wanted to be a juvenile probation officer. When he spoke, that is why I want to do this job. That is exactly why I want to do this job, is for him. One of our supervisors, about a year and a half ago, presented a disengagement policy. We've adopted that. We adopted it almost right away. And essentially, it gives us a formalized procedure that says we can walk away from certain things. We don't have to stay and stay and stay just because we're the police. And there are situations where there is no harm to the community, there's no immediate threat, and the best thing to do is walk away. And we deal with situations like that day in and day out. And in the old days, you call us, we're there till the end no matter what. Today, we're not going to stay there. We're not going to be the bad ending of the story if we don't have to. We're going to walk away. We're going to call Derek and his team. We're going to have resources that come in for long-term solutions. So we adopted that policy. You can probably tell if you've been around in Seaside a while, we have a brand new police patch. That police patch goes all the way back to the very early 90s. Prior to that, we had another patch. So this is kind of the third patch that's been in the history of Seaside, but we want to get away from just a traditional look, and we wanted to do something that really nobody does, and that is have community input on what your patch looks like. It's not our patch, it's your patch. So we did a community survey, and we had some designs that were put out. We got a ton of votes, and the patch that I wear today is what the community has selected. And we have been wearing that for, I don't know, close to 6 months or so now. I've had the unique experience in the last month or so to be the acting city manager, and one of the things I would love to finally implement, because it's been a little bit of a challenge for me, is to have community engagement with interview processes. I want members from our community safety team, members of the public who are engaged like you folks here. I want you to be able to interact with our interview panels and meet the candidates who are applying here and weigh in on what you like and what you see. Been trying to do that for a long time. And I'm going to let the acting city manager know that's a good idea. As I close, I want to just talk about our motto, and that's something that it really is just it's one word. It's not your traditional honor, pride, commitment, service, protect and serve, and whatever else you read out there that really is meaningless. Ours is trust. That's what it's all about. Like this young man, it's about trust. Transparency, respect, unity, service, training. That is the model. And if we can be experts in each one of those particular words, we will be an incredible police department and a community policing police department. As I my last words is, this is a beautiful day. I never thought in 2020, when I was looking at the television, that 3 and 4 years down the road, that we would be in a room, community, with police and community members talking about let's be better and let's work through this. So I'm honored to be here from the bottom of my heart. Thank you all. We love you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chief. The reason why I would, if I was in the audience, I would be standing applauding this chief and giving him a standing ovation is because this is the evidence that this department is doing it. We can see it, and I've seen it this past year. I worked with hundreds of police departments. Did you know that there's 18,000 police departments in the United States of America? Did you also know, raise your hand if you knew that. I'm just curious, I'm a professor, I teach, there's always a little. Did you also know that police departments, the architects of the police departments, was slave patrols? Did you know that? Raise your hand if you knew that. And so the fact that this chief just said in 2020 he didn't believe he'd be able to see this is one reason why I hear you. There's a lot happening throughout the nation, but we're doing it here. And that's why I don't mind volunteering whichever amount of time it takes to continue this, because as I've said to them in their training, when I meet with the police officers, when I meet with the students, I want to make sure all of you get home to your families at night. Full stop. So I want to make sure I say that. Before I go on to the next area, I wanted to just share a call to action. If you would join with me in providing information, phone calls, letters, supporting the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, H.R. 1280. We need to get that passed. It must. Because if it does, it'll have an opportunity to overhaul qualified immunity. If you can look in your brochure, we have all of that information there. Federally banning chokeholds. Prohibits no-knock warrants in federal drug cases. Outlaws racial profiling, which is just a daily, moment-to-moment. Can't tell you how much I hear that from so many people in our community. And then creating this National Registry of Police Misconduct. If you've been in trouble at one police department, they figured out that you're out of their department, which is, I'm so glad that that can happen. We need to know those individuals when they're coming to other departments. Sometimes they just move. And then again, they give a bad name to those great and wonderful police officers that are protecting and serving it, that came to the job for the reasons why we talked earlier. So at that point, I just would love you to support that. At this moment, I want to have every other police officer that's here today, can you just stand up and can we just give you a hand? There was a group sitting right there. And now they're not. There was. Well, let's give them a hand anyway. Don't know who they are, but then we have others over here to give them a hand as well. Our chief, really give it up for the city of Seaside to help sponsor this, to have this happen. And let me take a moment to also acknowledge the president of the NAACP, Lyndon Tarver. Mr. Tarver, would you stand up so people can see what you look like? There we go. I am proud to serve with him and Ann McDowell as well on the executive committee. And I consider it an honor if some of you would consider joining the NAACP. we're doing a lot of things, and we're representing all of us, everyone. So raise your hand if you're an NAACP member. That's good, but I know we can do better. So Miss Ruthie Watts and others that are, there she is, right here. See her hand, there we go. See, Jacqueline wants to, that's one reason why she's here. Just to make sure we register people, and I happen to be on the membership committee too. I also would like to acknowledge representing Chief Hobart, Mike Bruno. Mike, could you stand up? There he is. And of course, Honorable Ruthie Watts, we mentioned that earlier. Supervisor Glenn Church's office is represented here. Please. Mr. Anthony provided us an opportunity to work out with the kids at the Boys and Girls Club. Is he still here? If not, please give him a hand. It was great to have that opportunity. And the police and ambassadors have challenged each other. Let's see, they're in partners, so it's police officers or public servants with youth, and they challenge other public officers and youth. And then whoever wins gift cards. So, and it's just a great, wonderful thing. We needed to have a great place to have this, and the Boys and Girls Club volunteered that opportunity. So we thank him. Dr. Jeannine Gus was mentioned earlier. She's a friend of many years. Please, Dean, stand. We need you in the community to help champion the cause. Your questions earlier were absolutely wonderful. Your involvement in getting your trustees and your board and other administrators to be engaged in this important effort in life, in society, in education is very important, so thank you. I am going to be just very proud, and I just hope you give a really good round of applause for my chief, Fire Chief of North County Fire. Please, Joe Mendoza, Fire Chief Joe. As you know, I've been in North County, my father was in North County Fire for 25 years before he passed. The community convinced me to run, and I ran, and I've been there for 15 years. I'm so proud of this community and what we've been doing. And when he asked me the other day, he says, well, I know you're having your event. He says, you think I should come? And I said, absolutely. We need everybody to come and be a part of this. This isn't just a one industry area. It's for all of us. So thank you, Chief Mendoza. Any other electeds in the room, please stand so we can acknowledge you, that you took the time away. We did acknowledge people earlier. So the next person I'm going to mention is not an elected, but has been in the past. Christina Medina Dirksen, would you please stand? Christina? Let's give her a hand. She's with Kaiser Permanente, one of our sponsors. Thank you. And if there's anyone else that would like to just stand and share anything before we move on to our panelists, now would be that time. All right, are we good? Yes, no, maybe? Yes, okay, great. All right, the next thing I want to do is to look at our opportunity to have two sets of questions and opportunity for you as well to ask questions and input. One of my very, very good friends and community activist, community leader, and on so many awesome boards and doing so much in the community, an actual mentor for the community, all of our communities, Miss Yvonne Thomas. Please, Yvonne, would you come up?
And I want to thank all of you for coming out on this holiday weekend so that we don't forget why we're here today. On this day in 2020, we were traumatized and outraged by the actions of former police officer and current convicted felon, Derek Chauvin, as he kneeled on George Floyd's neck for 9 seconds, and the world watched his life end on national television. This is my third year speaking at this forum, so it gives me the unique opportunity to reflect on progress, or lack thereof, on efforts to engage the community and to build a sustainable infrastructure that will help us all. Over the past few years, there's been an exorbitant amount of teaching on this subject. But have we learned anything? It's very difficult to heal our society's wounds when events keep transpiring that effectively rip the scab off before it can properly mend. Healing is an ongoing process that requires commitment, collaboration, and continuous effort from individuals, communities, and institutions. We cannot speak about the cultural issues that contributed to George Floyd's murder without addressing some of the problems plaguing society that hinder us from much needed progress. I can't breathe were George Floyd's very poignant dying words. He is no longer breathing. Society, however, is still quite alive, but sometimes it feels like we're suffocating. The oxygen tank that will enable us to breathe again starts with building trust between law enforcement and the communities that they serve. It has been proven that empowering communities to take an active role in shaping and overseeing public safety measures can be beneficial for all. It is up to us here today to help change the perception of law enforcement being seen as the enemy and to work towards a time when our youth will want to look up to them and some of them to even aspire to be a future police chief or a district attorney. We need to reinforce to them that they have choices and let them know that we are looking at them to be possible answers to the solution and not looking at them as always being the problem. It's now 2024 and the lines of communication are wide open. We must make sure that we use those lines to truly walk the walk and not just talk the talk. I am personally involved with 2 local groups that are doing their part to walk the walk. I'm the vice chair of the City of Seaside Community Safety Advisory Commission and co-chair of the Monterey County District Attorney's Multicultural Council. The Seaside Safety Commission was created to provide a forum for discussions regarding community safety concerns and to help improve relations between the police department and the community. The DA's Multicultural Council meets monthly to engage in tough conversations to increase intercultural relationships and understanding. Efforts to involve our community are ongoing, but they're not thriving. We seem to have settled into a somewhat bland and uneventful new normal. And we're all sitting cautiously waiting to see if another incident will happen, either nationally or locally, that will shake us back into a very frightening reality. What we are witnessing here at home is concerted and successful efforts to improve relations by local law enforcement. But it's also important for us to shine the spotlight on incidents within the community that are requiring police interaction. There was a serious altercation at Seaside High School this year that consumed the news and social media for days and weeks. And the incidents demonstrated the relationships between Black and brown communities here on the Monterey Peninsula were strained, especially with our youth. Now that's not a new problem, but it does appear to be escalating. So how do we fix it? We're constantly bombarded with information citing significant socioeconomic disparities in wealth, education, and employment opportunities between racial groups. We're told that Black and Hispanic Americans, for example, have higher poverty rates and lower median household incomes compared to white Americans. These are all facts. That is true. One would think that the commonality would act as a bond for these communities. But recent incidents on the peninsula have demonstrated that it is doing just the opposite. In my opinion, part of the problem is the message these facts are sending to the youth. These facts are drumming into their heads that they are less than. And anyone that attempts to navigate life's trials and challenges with that type of mindset is doomed for failure. We must do something to strengthen the lines of communication, to support our youth, and to provide much needed encouragement. Many of our youth are mimicking the behavior that they see on social media, what they hear on television, and what is spoken to them by us. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil is an idiom that means avoiding involvement or ignoring wrongdoing or unsavory behavior. If we don't call out and work to alleviate our own behavior, then we will pass it down to current and future generations. There's a famous quote by Oscar Wilde that life imitates art far more than art imitates life. In this situation, we as community leaders are role models, and we are the art. We are the Picassos. We are the Van Goghs. We are the Jean-Michel Basquiats. And if you're not familiar with that last name, I encourage you to Google it, because he's brilliant. We are the masterpieces that our youth should be imitating. Now that can be a tough load to carry. And sometimes our frames hanging on the walls are a little askew. And as we age, the colors of our pictures may begin to fade. But don't ever let that dilute the responsibility that we have to our youth. Because although we are the art, they are the life. And they're counting on us. Thank you very much.
I hope you really heard that. Such a prolific speaker, and Yvonne has been at all three of our events, so she's part of the legacy here. Hope to see her next year. Wanted to make sure we had another partner in this, and Yvonne's going to speak more to her background, but after a person is apprehended, they parachute into the system. And then that means there's either a district attorney's office or a public defender or some other parts that are at that point involved. So I really felt last year we missed that part. So I reached out to our DA, Jeannine, and she said yes, she'd make the time to come here and be a part of this. So let's give her a hand for changing her schedule to come here and be a part of this. And if you come up now, and she's also a fellow Junior League, and I'm a Junior League member, and so is president of the Junior League here, so I'm happy about that as well.
Well, I want to thank Jacqueline and the organization for having me as a guest today. You know, the topic is very difficult, and I have this like typed out presentation that I'm actually not going to read off to you. And you can thank me for that later. But what I want to talk about is, you know, what our office did in our community as a result of the George Floyd murder. Yvonne, bless her heart, agreed to participate in a new concept for a DA's office. There's only one other DA's office that has a multicultural council like the one we have here, and that particular DA is from Yolo County. And you know, what he was telling me about his council, and I thought, gosh, that sounds really intriguing. When I would talk to the public, they had no idea what goes on behind the walls of the DA's office. It's a big building, decisions are made, the public doesn't understand, they're not informed on why decisions are being made, and so it's a big blank in public awareness. And so he encouraged me to consider creating a multicultural council. So I reached out to Yvonne, who at that time was the head of the NAACP. We have LULAC represented on our council. We have AAPI. We have 2 faith leaders. One was Reverend Dunham, and one from the Catholic Church. We have a representative from the Middle East on our council, a member of the veterans community. We have a crisis worker in mental health. And what we do is every month we meet in my office. And Yvonne is a co-chair, and Carissa Purnell, Dr. Purnell, she is the other co-chair. And whatever the council wants to discuss, we discuss. If they don't have anything that is like burning on their brain that month, then I will propose concepts or ideas to present. And we have trained our council about what options are for people who come into the criminal justice system. We talk about officer-involved shootings. The council is privileged to hear details that the general public isn't allowed to hear, and we share whatever information they're interested in hearing about, as long as it's not confidential and we can't legally share it. What that has done, and actually it's very selfish of me to want this council, because they help me inform my policies and how I move forward, because my life experience is not Yvonne's, and it's not Chris Barrera's, it's not Reverend Dunham's, it's not any of these people that work on this council. My life experience is very different. And so I might view things from a particular perspective without understanding that if I make a policy from someone else's perspective, it could have significant negative impacts. So the council is a benefit to me because I get to get perspectives from people that have life experience that I would never be able to understand unless we are able to openly communicate. And we do not always agree. We're not always on the same page, but it is a respectful dialogue where everyone is actually learning from each other. And it's been a huge learning experience for me, and I think it's been beneficial for my office. My chief assistant sits in there with me, and we've learned a lot from the council. So that was one thing we did in 2021, is we created this council, and it's been active ever since. I wanted to also share a little bit about what the legislature is doing. We talked about racial profiling and the act that's in the George Floyd Act that's in Congress right now. But locally, your legislature in the state, they've passed the Racial Justice Act. And what this does is it makes it a challenge in court for someone to be convicted if the arrest was done with a racial purpose. And convictions that are already done, people in prison can apply to have their convictions reversed or sentencings reduced if they can prove that there was some factor involved that showed a racial discrepancy there or discrimination. So that potentially opens up cases, hundreds of thousands of cases statewide, and we are litigating those on a daily basis. It also is for current cases. So if there's a current case going through the court process and there is a hearing and an officer or a witness uses a racially charged statement in the investigation or in court, that case is subject to being dismissed and refiled and has to be brought in or dismissed altogether. So there are significant efforts being made to address those racial disparities that have resulted in a disproportionate amount of people of color in our incarcerated state. There's a new law that's coming into play in January, and it's called race-blind charging. And what that does is it's for the prosecutors, it's from our perspective, and we will have to look at police reports and not see the name of the suspect, the address of the suspect, where the event happened, the race, gender, date of birth, hair color. There are no identifying pieces of information when a DA first reviews the report. They have to make a preliminary decision. Is there enough information here to make a decision about whether there's filing or not filing? Whatever the decision is, yes or no, or you likely to file, not likely to file, that's going to be the law. If whatever the decision is, you lock that decision into the computer system, and then you then get to review the entire body of work, everything involved. You're also not allowed to look at the rap sheet, which is a lot of information is given on rap sheets about prior incidences. So you don't have any of that information when you make your initial charging decision. Once you get to review the whole body of information, then the DA, if they make a change in the decision, if they were preliminarily not going to file, and now they see everything, and now they are going to file, they have to fill out a reason why they've changed their mind from not filing into filing. And that information is being collected at the state level for the Attorney General to report out about these filing changes. So those are two things in our California legislature that have changed the way we do business in terms of handling people who've been brought into the criminal justice system. And as wrong as that there is a disproportionate amount of people of color in our state prisons, I just really want to be clear with you that our victim population is also disproportionately people of color. It's not just the suspects. Our victims primarily are people of color. There's lots of reasons for that. These events are happening in low socioeconomic disadvantaged areas. People who live in the more affluent areas are able to get resources for those maybe with mental health. They have insurance. They have access to services that people in the lower economic areas. There's a myriad of factors. But I don't want to lose sight that the majority of victims we help in the DA's office, which last year we provided 24,000 services to victims, the supermajority are people of color. And one of the things that Yvonne talked about was this conflict between people who are black and brown and how it seems to be getting worse. And we're definitely in really harsh economic times, and the way our state budget looks like, it's not getting any better. When people do not have hope that there's anything better out there, that there's something more for them, then things go wrong. Things go sideways. They make choices they would otherwise not make. And one of the things we're trying to do is build the Family Justice Center in Seaside. We're hoping on Broadway that the county can find the funding to bring that to Seaside. Likewise, we're trying to bring one to Salinas, and we've already started down in King City. So these buildings bring hope, they bring services to try and address trauma for youth, so that maybe they have hope, and maybe this conflict and future bad choices end up in a different area. So that's what I have to say. And actually, it's a lot shorter than what I had written down. But thank you for the time to talk. Thank you.
Okay, so where is my microphone? And is there one out in the community? Great, Mr. Elder. Let's give him a hand. He's like doing a great job in the city of Seaside, making it happen. He also is an alumni. He has been with us for 3 years. You've been to every event. I'd like to now open it up for anyone in the community that might have a question for two of our esteemed individuals here on this panel.
This might be more for the police chief, but you could piggyback on his wonderful statement there. But I come from Salinas, and there's just so many issues going on that need to be addressed. how do you engage the surrounding communities to be here, to learn from your process? How do you replicate this program and take it to the surrounding communities like Salinas that are in so much need for it?
That question is directed to,
Well, I can, I think Nick might have an answer, but my first response is, the Monterey County Chiefs Association, we meet every month. And what Nick is doing in your community here, in the Seaside community, he communicates with the other chiefs. So he's doing what he can to communicate to the other chiefs in our association about what's happening here and what's working. Every chief is, every municipal chief is under the supervision of their city manager or city council, and each city council has different perspectives, and obviously he has the support from the mayor and the council in Seaside, and not every chief has that type of support.
Ms. Medina Dirksen?
I did something on Tuesday when Miss Jacqueline Simon was getting a resolution before the Board of Supervisors. I was there early, which is a little rarity for me. Just kidding. I went to the courthouse and I sat in on some sentencings that morning. And as we were preparing for this week, my daughter's here in the car, I was telling them a little bit about the criminal justice system, which I urged everybody in this room, go look at a sentencing, because the judges have so much discretion. And something that I witnessed, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this, DA Pacioni, was a very compassionate judge. And in my prior life, I was a news reporter and I covered courts, and there was not always compassion. It was very punitive in a lot of ways. And if my husband reminds us, if we are victims, sometimes that's what we expect from our criminal justice system. A black and white, you commit a crime, here's what the sentencing says. So my question is this. I experienced a Judge Vasquez, who's been on the bench about 7 years, showing compassion, and a person who'd been there on an arrest warrant, drugs, I'm going to say it, mostly Latinos in the sentencing box there, because that's a heavy of our population. And I saw him and witnessed him playing God in a lot of senses. Like, I can send you to jail for the rest of the year, or your daughter who has some very serious health issues needs you to be there. So there was a moment where he could have gone one way, what the law says, and the other, showing this compassion. So in the future, I'd love to see, that portion up here in a panel. But to you, Ms. Pacioni, hats off for your department, because I witnessed your prosecutor having to agree to things. And on not such a minor way, sentencing, not really minor sentencing, because that meant that person's job, his livelihood thrown into chaos with his personal choices. How much do your prosecutors, how much training or how much compassion, what is the authority that you give them on a day like that? Thank you.
So the question is, it depends, right? I mean, if it's a gang case, they usually involve homicide. Our prosecutors don't have a lot of discretion. On a sexual assault case involving a minor, our prosecutors don't have a lot of discretion. Now, on pretty much every other case, we're talking about every other general felony, we're talking about stolen vehicles, we're talking about possession of narcotics for sales, we're talking about theft. On those, there's an expectation that the prosecutors will be within a range, because we don't want this person to go to court and get this type of sentence, and that person to go to court and get, for the same offense, and get treated differently. So there's a range that the prosecutors are allowed to move within without having a supervisor come in and say, yeah, you can go lower or you should go higher. So that's the expectation, is that there's a range so that we can treat people similarly situated in the same way. And it won't vary from Department 1 to Department 2 to Department 3, that everyone has the same expectation. Now, there are certainly cases where there's aggravated facts where we will not plea bargain cases, but I will tell you that 98% of cases that come into court are resolved short of a trial. So there's a lot of negotiating going on, and I would say easily 50% of misdemeanors that come into court are diverted immediately out of court. So they don't even make it to a court that they're going to potentially go to trial on. They're diverted by the judge at first appearance.
Yes, Mayor.
So this is for our district attorney, and this is, I was wondering, I know that your department is involved with this and the sheriffs and other law enforcement. Can you talk a little bit about the restorative justice, since you were just talking about some of the cases doesn't really have to go through court, but just about that little additional deal there that you're involved with. Thank you.
So Maricel Mendez, she's my assistant district attorney. She's one of my executive managers. She sits as a co-chair on the Restorative Justice Commission. And the cases come either if possibly the defense attorney might ask for the opportunity to go to the Restorative Justice Commission, or the victims might want to do that, or even the prosecutor could suggest that a case maybe go in that direction. And what that is through the help of this commission, the defendant and the victim meet. There's a discussion, there's an attempt to kind of understand each other's perspective, and the case can be resolved in a non-criminal way quite often in those types of situations. We haven't had as much success in getting cases into that type of venue yet, and a lot of that is because there's so many cases eligible for diversion now that there's a lot of cases getting out of the system very quickly, and that's how they're being resolved.
First, I want to thank Mrs. Thomas for representing us on that commission, representing the community on that commission. I'm very excited to learn more. My question is for the DA. The Race Blind Act, you mentioned how if a change is made with respect to once the suspect's identity is revealed, it's tracked. My question is are there any other consequences to that change?
Not immediately. The Attorney General is going to collect that information. One of the challenges in implementing this new law is that it wasn't supposed to go into implementation unless there was funding associated with it, and there was no funding associated with it. Now, my office decided to proceed that way as if there was funding, although there is no funding, and it's going to be very expensive to implement because we have a digital filing system, so we actually have to hire someone to create a program, because this isn't something that's like on the shelf. You could buy a Word Perfect, or I'm aging myself, whatever the programs are. There's no program that currently exists, so we have to actually hire a computer designer to design the program to facilitate that situation. But at this point, the AG's office is just collecting that information and then reporting it out. I will tell you that there have been 2 DA's offices that were already implementing this long before it became the law. And it hasn't become the law yet, but long before it was passed. And that was San Francisco DA's office and Yolo County, the same county that had the Multicultural Council and suggested it to me. Those 2 counties had the race blind charging in place and have had it for a considerable period of time. And they have both said that the results in filing have not changed in terms of whether you see the information or don't. And so what it's suggesting is that if there are disparities happening, it's not happening at the charging level. It might happen at the sentencing level, and it might happen upstream at the law enforcement level. And that could be because for various reasons, not necessarily illegitimate ones, but if the law enforcement is more heavily patrolling an area that has had a concentrated group of criminal activity in the past, that might result in more people of color being pulled into the system that way, versus them targeting or racially profiling.
One of my deep concerns about both policing and about the justice system is that property is valued above human beings. To remember that George Floyd was originally detained over a possible $20 bill counterfeit. Locally, we see and hear over and over again of high-speed chases over a stolen car, which not only endangers the potential criminal, the officer chasing, but tens or dozens or scores or hundreds of bystanders. Why is property valued over human life?
Well, I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that question, but what we, whether, I can't answer for the police about their practices in pursuit for property crimes. What I can tell you is that because of Prop 47 reducing felony theft to a misdemeanor by raising the amount of stolen property value, so from $400 to $950, that police responses to thefts have reduced significantly, only because they have more serious offenses that they have to respond to. And so I think that we've seen a decline in arrests for property crimes and subsequent prosecutions as a result of that change. In terms of the pursuits, I really couldn't speak to that.
Thank you. I have a question for Ms. Thomas. She's been in the community for years, originally from Fort Ord, I believe. Born in Fort Ord. You've been here a while. You've been here for decades. What have you remembered then, and what are you remembering now? And how can we learn from our past to have us have a better present? And I think we're on the road. However, at the end of the day, I think we always can talk about it so we can learn more from each other. Thank you.
As Jacqueline said, I was actually born and raised here, born in Fort Ord, California, raised in Seaside. Graduated from Seaside High School and then immediately left and went to Southern California for close to 30 years before coming back here. And what I've noticed since coming back here over the past 10 years is a definite improvement between the community and law enforcement. Things used to be really bad here in Seaside. And I still see when Seaside is reported in the local news, there are other cities on the Monterey Peninsula that still sort of look down their noses at us, and it bugs me to no end. So part of what my goal is, coming back here and joining a number of boards, is to improve what people think about our city and to let them know we're just like every other city, because there's problems going on in lots of other cities. One of the things that I enjoy so much about being on the DA's Multicultural Council is that we do get to see behind the scenes of a lot of things. We had a wonderful presentation just last week on human trafficking in Monterey County, and that Monterey County is now a hub for human trafficking. Who knew that? There's things going on here in the Monterey Peninsula that are right in front of your noses, and you don't recognize it. So I'm able to see this behind the scenes now, and part of my job is to bring that back to the community and let people know things to look for. So I've seen a definite improvement in terms of what it was when I was growing up as a kid. I remember the young man that spoke here and said that he used to be really afraid of police.
Right.
Police used to have a really bad reputation in this town. And it's so much better now since our police chief, Nick Borges, who I consider a friend now, has really done a great job in terms of getting to know the members of the community. And also, he's from here as well, and he really promotes Seaside well. He loves our city, and so do I.
Absolutely, I'm in agreement there. Did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I'm just going to comment on something Yvonne said. So we did a press release. We had a murder case. It was a 40-year-old murder, and it actually occurred in Carmel. And by the time we were able to, we have a cold case task force, and by the time my office was able to identify who the perpetrator was and bring him to justice, it was 40 years later. And the defendant lived in Seaside at the time of his conviction. So my prosecutor wrote the press release and said, "Seaside man convicted of murder." And Yvonne rings me up. And she's like, whoa, right? Because she gets a copy of all of our press releases. So she didn't just hear it in the media, she gets a direct release from us. And she goes, whoa, 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 that is not true. He committed that offense, he was living in Carmel at the time, and so that was a learning moment for me. And now we discuss, when the press releases go out, you know, where was the offense occurring? Where was the person living at the time of the offense? So Seaside doesn't unfairly get, you know, tagged with something that didn't occur in their city, wasn't involved with their city. So that was a learning opportunity for me.
Absolutely. It's as I was mentioning earlier, we have a lot of awesome things happening in our community in the area of policing. There's a lot of really great public service officers, public safety officers. But when something happens, no one talks about all these great, wonderful programs and plans. They just key in on this other area. We need to cover it all, but we need to be balanced, I believe. And that's what I'm hoping we're going to continue to do. And that's part of what today is about. So we have an
my question is for the chief. I know that you have a meeting with other chiefs in the surrounding areas. And I'm a resident of Marina, but I do most of my community service right here in Seaside. And so my question to you is, how are the other chiefs responding to the things that you're doing in your community? Are they accepting, or they're engaging their residency to assist? Because the chiefs can't do it all, the police can't do it all. We all have to pick up the torch and do our part, whether how much. So my question to you, how are they being engaged in their communities? Because I don't believe, well, you can clean up one community, but if you don't get your surrounding communities, we all in the same danger, although we're doing all this great work. But we need to also help our other communities to pick up their torch and do a better job.
Good question. Great, thank you.
I'll be very honest up front, and I'm going to tell you even more honesty. So sometimes they give me a hard time. Sometimes they make fun of the things that we're doing here in Seaside in a playful but camaraderie style of way, because we do things that are extremely unique, and I am very defensive of Seaside, as we just heard. So ultimately, though, we have a very good relationship, because we do understand this is not Los Angeles. This is small pockets of community. And if somebody's here right now, they're going to be in Monterey or Pacific Grove or Carmel or Marina in 20 minutes, 15 minutes. So we meet a lot, but the meetings are very fruitful. We share information. We heard about our license plate readers that we have. Seaside loves to brag a little bit, so we were the first ones to have the cameras on the peninsula. And now almost everyone, we're just waiting out on one other agency to get theirs, which they will. It got approved by their city council. We're sharing information. We're trying to keep our community safe. We know nightlife. Where are people going to go on a Friday, Saturday night downtown? They're probably going to end up just to the south of us here. They're going to go to Monterey, Carmel, and so we communicate like crazy. The DA just spoke of this. We had a retreat earlier in the month. We all got together with county-wide leaders, and chiefs of police in the DA's office, and we sit down, we do some training, we talk, we network, we share information. So it's really a good thing. We talk a lot. In fact, if something's happening, I have a group text going right now with all the Peninsula chiefs. If something happens in Seaside that's big, I'm going to get on that group text and I'm going to text all of my partners. My partner right here, Randy Hopkins from Marina, he was one of the first police chiefs to respond to our shooting that we had some weeks ago. So we interact like crazy. It's a really positive thing. And I want to answer a little bit about the pursuits because I don't want to leave that one lingering. As it relates to pursuits, we train and we all talk about this in the entire county. We all follow the balance test, the nature of the crime versus the risk of the public. It's in our policies, it's in our training. You can say balance test to any police officer in the county and they're all going to understand what that means. And I don't want to let this out of the bag yet, but I'm going to because I don't mind. I like to be first with everything for Seaside. But imagine if you were driving down the road, because there are times we do have to chase people, not for the minor stuff, but there are dangerous people that we cannot let go sometimes. Imagine if you were driving down the street with your family and you got an alert on your phone or in your vehicle, if you have a screen in your vehicle that just said, there is a pursuit within a mile radius of you, please use caution and be aware. Wouldn't you love to know that? Wouldn't you love to know that?
Yes.
Okay. In our budget, we have a product, we would be the first in California to get this product. I don't want to say the name because I know these other agencies are going to steal it. But this product, it ties into Waze and a variety of other vehicles, and more vehicles as they make vehicles are collaborating with this product. So the times that we do have to chase, your family, you get an alert on your phone, and it would say, within a mile radius of where you are, there is a pursuit. There's a vehicle pursuit. And it's not just for pursuits, by the way. It could be for a critical incident. It could be for whatever it may be. So we're working on, as the mayor said, technology and following President Obama's 21st century policing model.
Awesome. Absolutely. Good answer. Please.
But I did want to address something that was related, and that is the communication between law enforcement and how they interact with each other and what's being shared. And the Multicultural Council sponsored a thing called Evolve, an event called Evolve, and it brought law enforcement from all over the county into the Monterey County Office of Education. Thank you for Dr. Gus for making this happen over at her space. And we brought law enforcement in, and we brought community leaders in, and we presented the Evolve experience. And with the Evolve experience, it's out of Oregon. They go around to different law enforcement groups, and it's a performing arts presentation, but they have perspectives from a person of color interacting with law enforcement, and they showcase each one's perspective during a stop of some sort. And what it's supposed to do is start the conversation of trying to see what's in the other person's mind. Like the law enforcement officer, he or she may have something in their mind, and of course the person who's being stopped has a different perspective, and you get to see what's going on in each of their minds, the dialogue between them, how it evolves. And it's just to open up the law enforcement's perspective that there is another perspective, that there is something other than their perspective that needs to be considered. And Yvonne was gracious enough. I ended up coming in from out of town, expecting to host this thing, and I ended up with COVID. And so Yvonne replaced me and was the host, and we did, there was 5 presentations, 2 that were restricted to law enforcement, and then the rest were open to the community. And all of the chiefs supported this thing. All of the chiefs came themselves, sent officers from their departments. So everybody got exposed to it, and it was a full day event.
I went, it was phenomenal, saw a lot of awesome people that were very concerned about issues related to that and saw them change their minds by nodding to the comments made. So thank
I
you
would just like to ask the police about if a teenager, let's say 14 to 15 years old, committed a crime twice, do you ever call the parents in to find out why they cannot control their teenager?
Nick, that's all you.
So I can't speak for the other police departments, Ms. Ruthie, but I'll speak for Seaside. We're going to call the parents the first time.
That's right.
The very first time, we're going to contact the parents. The very first time, we're going to try to identify what the problem is. Additionally, we have a youth diversion program. So depending, as long as it fits within the criteria that's in the law, which is pretty wide, we're going to work with our Seaside Youth Resource Center, and we're going to divert that young person to that particular program. So, but in Seaside, we want to get to know the families. We're going to call them the first time.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. My name is Isaiah Thompson. I am the Executive Director and founder of Next Step Reentry Center for formerly incarcerated veterans and returning citizens. And I'm also the Deputy Director for Veteran Healing Veterans, where we go inside the prison. In fact, I just came from Soledad on my way here. I came in a little late, so pardon me for that. I was at the parents' meeting that involved the students that were at Seaside High when they had the incident. And one of the things that I brought up to them was the fact that because I do go into Soledad relatively regularly, 4 or 5 times a week to teach classes and to do different groups, that I do understand and know that they have a program there that bring at-risk youth in there to speak to the men who have done phenomenal work in their human transformation, from who they were to becoming pro-social citizens. And I bring this up, and Chief, you just spoke to it, and I'd like to get with all the chiefs that are here and give you my card. I believe that definitely approaching this problem from the aspect of not only dealing with those youth that are high risk, but a preventative measure to get them before they become high risk and take them through these programs. I can vouch for those men inside, and I'm sure some of you police officers and maybe even Mayor Oglesby can also vouch for them, that they have done the work. They're really, really intelligent. Some of them have earned degrees. And more importantly, they're willing to give up their weekends to see these young men and women that are potentially headed down a path of destruction. Not only does that help to secure a safer community, but it also reduces recidivism before recidivism is even part of the conversation. And I just wanted to allow myself to be seen and to know that I'm a contact person. I understand that there are some programs that are already up and running. I'd like to get involved with that. You can use me as a point person. Like I said, I go into Soledad at least 4 times a week, and I'm in the process of having a statewide clearance through all prisons here coming up hopefully in the next month or so. That should be over with. And I want to utilize what I have been given as a blessing and extend it out to this new community. I've been here almost 3 years now. I'm originally from the Bay Area, lived back east, and before then I was deployed overseas for many tours. But you know, this is home for me, and I want to make sure that the people here are safe, and anything that I can do to lend a hand to not just the community, but to also law enforcement, and to allow my number to be at your disposal if something comes up that you may need an extra voice or a different set of eyes or different ideology. You know what I mean? I'm into the Restorative Justice Act as well, and so I'm available. And I'd just like to know, do we have any programs where we can start preventing before prevention is needed?
Absolutely. Thank you. You know, I know Mr. Thompson, and he's done so much in other communities, and I'm really glad that he's here now. And I'm looking forward to us partnering and working in that effort, because at the end of the day, it's like this. It's what we're doing here today. It's having the, no pun intended, unspoken conversations. We really need to do that so that we can find out more about each other, and we can look at how we can best each other, whether it's community or just, you know, individuals. I want to take this opportunity to thank these 2 awesome individuals. I wanted to have you take a look at some of these awesome slides. It'll show you hands-on some of the work that we've been doing this past year that has to do with youth of promise. And I really want you to think about that phrase. They're not youth at risk. They're youth of promise. All they want is an opportunity. I can also say, because they're ambassadors, they're fellow police, public safety officers have promise as well. We have that here in our community. And I appreciate what was mentioned earlier by Joyce Simon, my sister-in-law, that all communities, everyone in this county, we need to continue to work together. It's the only way we win. It's the only way the community wins. And I believe that our jobs are easier then when we're working with each other. There shouldn't be any competition. Because when we have competition and we don't rise above our ego or personality, the community loses. And for me, my biggest heart is for children and youth that are just standing, watching us. And we're the role models. So I think we need to stand up and stand out and be there for them. So as a community, Monterey County, I encourage you to do some of the things that we were talking about and what was mentioned earlier, working together. So as you finish taking a look at some of these slides, we're actually engaged in the wonderful training I had when Chief Borges gave his officers an opportunity to volunteer and come and be a part of this. And one of the first things I said to them was, can I keep it real? Can we really talk about what the issues may be, how you are perceived, how can I help you be your better and best champion to the community? Because there's so many good police officers out there doing that good work. And then the youth, when Jake Osborne and Dr. Diallo, when we met, and Dr., so many of my friends are doctors now. In a moment, I'll mention another one, Dr. Penalver here. She's also a very good friend as well as a colleague, and she's a part of our committee. When I shared that, we all collectively just talked about what can we do to make it better? How can we evolve? How can we, as Chief Borges said, it might be outside of the box. The box is dead. I think we're in the chip mode now, and very shortly we're going to be in the digital world, the virtual world. So let's work together for a better place and a better opportunity. So these pictures are related to the training, related to us getting together. We have a big, huge basketball challenge from the police officers and the youth. A promise pretty soon. We'll let you know. If you left your information with Miss Malika Velasquez, who's been handling a lot of the coordination today, and of course Anita Crawley, I'd like to take a moment here and just acknowledge these wonderful organizations that are standing here and sitting here beside. We have the awesome Stacy Andrews. Stacy, stand up. I want everybody to know who you are. Stand up, please. Let's give her a hand. Village Project, the executive director. We work closely with them. That organization is just doing so much, as is the Black Caucus and a number of these other organizations. I mentioned the NAACP earlier on. Hello. And of course, Pat Spencer, where are you? Where is Pat Spencer? She's forever doing something wonderful. Oh, good. There you go. Also wanted to mention that we have a former chairperson of the Community Foundation, Mr. Bert Johnson. Please stand, Mr. Johnson. We have a number of people that are just here connecting, helping to make it work and making connections. We have one of my board trustee members of North County Fire Protection District, director, won his last directorship here. Please stand, Mr. Ramon Gomez, Director Gomez. It's always good to live well with your fellow board members so you can get things done. And I'm so glad that we consistently represent the community. That oath we took is not our personal oath, it's what we do for the community. And I appreciate it when others are doing the same. All right, so on that note, what I'd like to do, NCB NCBI in the house as well. Stand up, NCBI, please. Yes, right there. She's going to do like a dance for us. So she told me she's got this famous little move, right? Our next panelist, and he'll say a few words beforehand. Randy Hopkins, Police Chief, City of Marina. He has 23 years of distinguished service. He has extraordinary credentials in the work that he did in Kansas City, and he might talk about some of that. He dedicates himself to community. What I was impressed about when I met him at his reception when they brought him on a few months ago was his openness, was his accountability statements, was his transparency statements, all very similar to Chief Borges. That's what we want, that's what we need in policing. Transparency, accountability. You know, the industry is an industry that you're gonna have problems and issues. You understand that that's gonna happen. It's not gonna be roses every day, every month. But when you have good leadership that has transparency and accountability as a very important part of what they do, and have better outcomes and results because of that, you have a better, more informed community. So something I was really impressed with was his openness and accountability and such. So Chief Hopkins, can you come on up and let's give him a roaring hand. He's our newest chief.
First, I'll apologize up front for those at my table that have heard my intro before, that you have to hear it again. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing it, but for those of you who have not met me before and I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, I'll start with a small background of where I came from. So I'm from Kansas City, Missouri, and home of the Kansas City Chiefs. Sorry, we won't talk about that, but it's okay. Well, I do love the 49ers as well, just not when they're playing the Chiefs. All right, too soon, right? Okay. No, but I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I grew up within our Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. Retired there at 30 years as a deputy chief. I then went on to be a chief at a university, Rutgers University, as a chief there at that university for a few years before seeing the offering for the chief's position in Marina, and that's when I applied. My whole career in law enforcement has been kind of a calling, if you will. I knew at 10 years old I wanted to be a police officer. Didn't want to be a fireman. Didn't want to be anything else but a police officer. I knew that. So at 21, I instantly applied. At the time, the careers were a little bit different then, where there was a 2-year waiting period to get on a police department. Kansas City was really well known, and so I didn't want to wait that long, so I said, well, I'm either going to get on the police department or I'm going to be an engineer, because that was my second love and passion. Ended up getting in the police department, went straight through, tested really high, and 30 years later I was retired. My niche, if you will, is in investigations, homeland security, technology, HR related matters, and I love strategic, complex problems. And that just seemed to serve me well, as my core was community. Community, community, community. That was my whole passion and drive at 10 to be a police officer, because I just wanted to serve the community. Growing up in the inner city, understanding some of the issues and seeing those things around me, I was fortunate in that my best friend father was a police officer, and that made a very direct and positive impression on me, just seeing how he interacted with us, and so that resonated well with me. So moving forward, one of the things, I say all that to say, it's easy to be in this profession and see it change and evolve over the years. There's been a lot that has occurred, good and bad. The one thing that I'd say that I'm happy about is that it's still one of the noblest professions that are out there. It's one of the difficult ones, but it's still one of the most notable ones. And it is because it's service. My core values that I've adopted and live by, try to display and make sure I check myself every day to see how I'm doing in them, is an acronym I call SIPRA. and it's service, inclusion, integrity, professionalism, respect, and accountability. So every day, I'm checking myself to see how am I representing myself to my community, to my officers, to myself, to my family. Am I demonstrating that well? If not, how can I do better? And so that has just been my drive and my nature. I did that early on because I understand that first, people don't care how much you know until they first know how much you care. So I can be very competent, and I think that I'm fairly competent in a lot of areas, but if people don't like me, they don't resonate with me, they don't understand me, it doesn't matter. And so first things first, community first, the heart first, and making sure that I'm demonstrating all of those core values that I just stated. So that's kind of who I am as a leader. That's kind of what I bring to Marina. I'm very blessed and fortunate to be here as your guest today. I know I'm not in my city, but one of the things that really was appealing to me from day one, I did miss something. Years ago, I went to the Naval Postgraduate School, so that was my first introduction to the Peninsula area. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And ever since then, I said, it'd be nice if I could ever come back and live here. And so when I was afforded the opportunity to come back and be the chief here in Marina, one of the things that I instantly saw was the camaraderie with the other chiefs, just how the Peninsula chiefs, how the Monterey County cities connect with one another. There was just that sense of collaboration. And for that was an additional calling for me in terms of this is where I want to be, this is what I want to be a part of, because this is already part of who they are, and so it's a good fit. Just as the city sizes me up in terms of who they want as their next chief, as their next leader, I'm also trying to resonate with the city that I'm coming to, because I want to make sure that I do them justice and that my heart is going to be what they want and what they need and what they deserve. And so it's been a great fit. I'm only here going up on 90 days now, coming up on that. And there's still a lot of differences between Missouri law and California law that I'm learning. My notes are kind of growing in that regard, but it's good. One of the things I'm also impressed about is the level of professionalism and expectation that Police Officer Standard Post puts on police departments for their level and caliber of professionalism and training. It's much higher than it was in Missouri. And so that I like, because one of the other assignments that I had was the director over our regional academy. I'm big on training education, and so that's also one of the pillars of the 21st century policing. In Marina, it's a newer department. It used to be fire and police combined, and then they separated. So we now have a core of officers that are young, dynamic, they love their community. That was really impressive to me. It's not one of those things where I have to drag them toward a mission. They're there, they're living it, they're promoting it, and that's one of the things I just want to be honored to come back. So again, what I'll say is this, in terms of, as we reflect this, how does all this reflect upon while we're here today? Kind of like what Nick was saying, as I saw the full view footage from starts to end, and I had to look for it. Once I finally saw the full tape of what occurred with George Floyd, I found myself also yelling at the television, enraged. I was getting phone calls, I was getting texts, emails from friends as well, as we were kind of looking at this, and it was just unbelievable in terms of how this does not represent anything that I've ever been taught in my 30 years of law enforcement. It was just, and to add to that, the other officers that were around were protecting him while he's doing that. Again, at some point, someone has to buddy check and get him off of him and say, listen, we got it, the escalator or something. None of that happened. It was as we all know, that is not representative of any organization that I wanted to be a part of, and it's not representative of the organization or core values in the profession. And so I just say that, and I know what's nice about it is that the community also understands that not all law enforcement are that way. And for that, that's what keeps us coming back every day, making sure that we are recruiting the best minds, those that have the best interest, the best heart of the community in place. It's difficult when you're trying to hire younger generations, their interests are different, and then as you're entering in a period of time where our profession is under attack, and justly so for a lot of reasons, but there's also still a lot of good. It's still, like I said, one of the noblest professions. And so the challenge that we have today is to make sure that we don't forget why we're here, why we put on this badge, why we put on this uniform, and it's simple: to serve our community, to love our community. And one things that I like about being here is that that's reciprocal. Since I've been here day one, the businesses that I go to or just passing through town, everyone stops. They greet you, they are welcoming me. I picked up about 500 cards and I'm almost through half of them already, and so I'm gonna have to order some more. But that is a blessing. That is why I'm just honored to be here. Hopefully I'm not rambling too much, but I just wanted you to hear my heart first. The skill sets, the innovation, we're competing with Nick here with all his new gadgets. I want to find out what company that is. but I like that. But that's the camaraderie. He is right. We have a text stream that we all communicate on when the unfortunate event happened here the other day. Responding, we ran out our office. We heard the call come over the radio, and we were here. That's what we do. That's what you do for family. That's what you do for friends. That's what you do for community. And I consider you all my community as well. We're not, although we have city boundaries, we're still not restricted by that. You know, Nick is my family, you're my family, and I know that if we needed something, you would be there for us just like that as well. And that's the part I love, and I'm blessed that you welcome me into your family. So with that, I'll stop rambling and answer any questions, I guess, on the panel that you might have, but I just wanted you to hear my heart. I had a list also, but I didn't read it, so there you go.
Yeah, I think we're all alike. Some of us have notes and some of us have speeches, and we've all just, I think, kind of spoken from the heart today a lot. And I think that's refreshing, and it shares something my father taught me was, at the end of the day, it's about your character, other than anything else. What are you doing when people are watching? And what are you doing when people aren't? So I learned that as a child, growing up, and certainly continue to live that in my life. So thank you. That was a good discussion. Now I want to bring up the next panelist that is going to share a little bit about her life and her work, but specifically in work that we've done in the community, and she's going to talk a little bit about something that was touched on earlier, anti-blackness, brown and black issues that we need to resolve, and the fact that that's happening is something we need to start having those conversations about. Anything that's happening that needs attention is not going to be solved by not talking about it. So that's what I'm hoping that we're going to do, is to start some of that dialogue. So Dr. Renee Penalver is a professor at California State University, Monterey Bay. Renee is an assistant professor in quantitative methodology and psychology. She also completed her AA in Bakersfield College, her BA in psychology at California State University at Bakersfield, in social cognitive neuroscience, with an emphasis in quantitative methodology from the state of Texas, El Paso. Renee is also the president of the Junior League of Monterey County. I believe maybe one of the first Latinas. And I think that's important because we're talking about individuals that can mentor others, role models, let other people see us in various positions, so then we feel that we can do it too. That's missing. I just am one to just share as much honesty about any of these areas as possible. That's the only way we're going to get something done, is to really talk about it. So on that note, Dr. Penalver, would you come on up? Please.
Hello, everyone. I prepared something too, but I'm also going to go off the cuff because that's the theme. I'm so honored to be here in the ranks of police chiefs and DAs, and I'm excited to share with you what I've learned. I've been teaching college now for over 10 years, and so I know that young people are our future, and I will share some of the sentiments that I've learned in being a college professor as well. My journey toward learning more about social justice was forced. So I grew up in Bakersfield, California, and I never really saw anyone different than me. There's a lot of Latinx individuals there. Moved to El Paso, Texas, where everyone looks like me. And then my first professor gig was in the state of Iowa, where no one looks like me. And oftentimes, because there was no reference for brown, Asian, Indian, Mexican, I was categorized as black. So I had the very unique experience for a very short time, for 3 years, to, I was followed in stores, stopped by cops, and that was the start of my journey of learning more about social justice. And so although my Ph.D. is not in the realm of social justice, I work with people who have dementia, I study how information processing works. I've learned a lot. I've gotten trained a lot on social justice issues over the last 10 years. When George Floyd happened, it was like I couldn't catch up. Ahmaud Arbery had just happened. And then George Floyd happened. And I could not catch up. I could not catch my breath. And it was just such a devastating time in my life. And so I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of the George Floyd Forum since its inception in 2021. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to speak with you all about anti-Blackness. Anti-Blackness isn't just in white communities, it's in brown communities, it's in black communities, it's everywhere. We have a colonial mindset, we have white supremacist mindset, and that's in everyone, in everything. And I've learned that through my training over the last 10 years. And so when we see these things happening at Seaside High School, where brown kids and black kids are fighting each other, it's because we've been programmed to think so. And it's about unlearning. Right now it's about unlearning and teaching everyone with equity and equality. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I do want to talk about any questions you might have about anti-Blackness in the Latinx culture, which is very heavy. Colorism is a very strong thing in Latinx culture and other brown cultures as well. And so I'm happy to talk about that and share that with you all. I also think we need to be engaging young people. The young people that I teach, for a good portion of their lives, they were under lockdown. They do not trust cops at all. Young people don't. If you were to go at CSUMB right now, they would not welcome you very warmly if you're a cop or some kind of police officer. And so the heart of that, I know that there's maybe some trouble recruiting young people. That's a big issue, is because they do not trust cops. What they've seen on the news when they've been growing up has been very bad portrayal of cops. And so I think my perception and understanding of how we fix the solution is for them to see good cops. It's not about rebuilding trust. The trust is never there. So it's about establishing the trust with peace officers. There's a lot going on in the world right now as well, with things going on in Israel and Palestine, and schools have been, higher education, especially in the Cal State system, students have been taking over buildings and inhabiting buildings, and cops have not been very nice to them there as well. So the distrust has been growing in young people and is only growing further. And so my solution to this is that there was this wonderful, all the children were up here talking about the relationships they created with cops. Parallel programming should be happening with college students. Something similar where they can see good cops. My father's a cop. so where they can see good cops and be able to trust them. So I'm going to sit down, but I'm very honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Chief Hopkins, do you see any specialized level of being able to work with other cities? I know that we spoke of what you did in Kansas City. Can you think of anything you might bring to us here to collaborate and or how we might work together with other cities?
Sure. So I think, again, a lot of the foundation that we want to establish in reaching our ultimate goal is in building that relationship with our community is to first build that collaboration and establish the trust. One of the things that you mentioned about how students right now may not trust or like the police on the campus setting, having just come from that experience, I had the opposite effect in that there were multiple programs that I implemented and met with different student bodies, whether it was the Black Student Union or the different Greek organizations and their leadership, their Senate, Student Senate. Regularly, I would meet with them as well as faculty and staff to understand what issues are permeating throughout the campus and how can we be a part of that in a positive way. As with anything, it's about building that positive relationship before something happens. Once it happens, then you're trying to play catch up and also into trying to resolve the issue. So it's possible, it's doable, and so to any extent that our agency or myself personally can assist the university with that, I think that's important because they're also part of our community. A lot of students live in our community or adjacent to it or in this city as well. So what we do helps those around us as well. Would be one area.
Great collaboration.
Collaboration.
I agree. Yes, we have a question here.
I could not resist the opportunity. Well, first, I live in the city of Marina, and I have a first grade grandson who had gotten in trouble twice that week. So I said, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take you down to the police station. So I'm on my way. He won't, when I park in the parking lot, he's not getting out of that car. So I said, now there's a car coming out of there, and I can't drag you out, but you're getting out of this car. So I said, so I didn't know it was the chief, the new chief yet. He just got there. He was brand new. And I was telling him, hey, my grandson decided he wanted to take somebody else's things. So he took the time, he was on his way to a meeting. He took the time to talk to my grandson. And I love that. Thank you so much. And that's the community that we have, that we feel comfortable. And I brought up that to say that you mentioned that the CSUMB students really don't appreciate, I'm gonna say safety, because we don't understand that the significance of having officers, police. When I see them, I wave. Well, Jacqueline, you know, you and I kind of grew up in the law enforcement era, so we know how important that is. Right. And that's why I brought my grandson to the police station so he can know that you're in good hands. All right. You don't get to live here, but we need to let you know that there is a consequences for what your behavior is showing. So I'm showing you, and then all the way back out of the parking lot, I told him how wonderful it is. Those policemen is my friend. They keep me safe. They keep our city safe, and you can count on them. And that's why I want you to meet them, to let them know that you're a friend too. So you don't want to be on their bad side. But I think it comes from our household of teaching our children about how to address police, how to, we were taught that, how we speak, how we act, and how we conduct ourselves. So I just want to thank the city of Marina because I feel safe in my city. I know that whatever happened in Marina is going to be taken care of.
All right, great, thank you.
I want to add something really quick to that. I think it's not that CSUMB students don't value safety, they do. It's that they don't believe the police are safe. It's all about the mindset. And that absolutely, I hope that changes. Unfortunately, a lot of black students on campus have been pulled over. One of the, he's like second in line to the president, was pulled over on campus, and he's a black man. And it seems overwhelmingly that these incidents are happening with people of color on campus. And maybe I'm just hearing about it because I'm also another person of color and they're feeling comfortable sharing it with me. But again, I just want to say it's not that our students don't value safety. They absolutely do. We have terrific students. It's just that they're not feeling safe in the presence of police.
That's actually correct. I mean, across this nation, in the state of California, in Monterey County, there are issues.
Can I add something to that?
So we do need to have those conversations, and we need to be honest. We shouldn't take it personally. We should take it on the family level of the village, and every child is all of our children. Yes?
I'm just going to reiterate in that when George Floyd happened in Kansas City, Missouri, there were riots at our retail areas downtown for several days. Changed how the city felt about the police department. And it turned very negative, and it was again because of certain leadership positions that were taken within the police department and how they handled that and how they interacted with the community around that. It was not a pretty sight, and that the events that were where the rioting was occurring was within a mile or two of the university where I was the chief at the time. And some of that sentiment at one point was voiced by some students on the campus about anti-police and how maybe even our department on the university is also, it was the broad stroking of everybody, all police are that way. And before I can even pick the mic up, because we were in a conversation, the other students shut that person down and says, no. We love our campus officers. They're here, they were here before, they're here now, they've been nothing but polite. We've had conversations with them, they let us have conversations, and if anything, Kansas City, Missouri Police Department needs to take note of what's going on here and how it should be done. So it can happen and it can be reversed, and it was just that difference within a mile of that event. The two communities had different perspectives. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a phrase that says every organizations rise and fall on leadership. And so it really comes down to who's leading the organization, how is that being projected and led and managed.
Absolutely, 100%, please. I think he deserves a hand. I mean, if we need to acknowledge that, and I was going to simply say that, but don't be sorry. I'm glad you and I are in agreement, and that is what it is. It's leadership. It's who's at the top. Chief Borges is an excellent person in that role, and I see his officers mimicking his level of interest in the community and the honesty. And he says, just as Dr. Panetta says, we have to be honest about it. We got to talk about it. And maybe it doesn't sound like something normal in a policing environment or a university environment. But we need to start talking about it because there's a lot of issues out there. And until we start talking about it and listening to each other, we're still going to continue. In fact, it's festering, it will be worse because we know we can do better. So another question. Anyone else?
Yes. Yes. I really liked what you said about the need to engage the youth more. And I would encourage you to, if funding allows, to expand this program or add panelists that are from various grade levels, elementary, middle school, high school, and university, because I think something very key was stated earlier, I believe the chief said it, about they need to have a good experience before they have a bad one. It's similar to any of us. If we go into a restaurant and have a terrible experience, that's the only thing. We never give them another chance. It's our mindset, as you said. But I did want to comment about the funding issue. Having been an elementary school teacher in Salinas, in East Salinas, I regularly invited the police into my classroom. And more than 1 year, they sent an officer who came in with everything, explained weapons, bonded with the kids. It was just a really good experience. There was no negative reaction from any of my kids, even though some of them came from backgrounds where they were taught a negative mindset. However, that dissolved somewhere along the line when I kept asking, oh, we don't have that program anymore because of funding. And also, another thing that disturbed me was that the city council turned down grant money for SRO officers on site because of a negative perception of how they would invade the schools. I worked at a Native American school. It was 98% Native American in Arizona, where it was such a troubled population. They ranked either first or second as the most violent tribe in the nation. So every at-risk situation imaginable going on at home. And they had SROs at the school. We had an SRO and a counselor on site. And I can attest to what a difference that made. Both in my personal safety, because I was in an all-day lockdown situation where the SRO was extremely instrumental in preserving our safety, but also just the bond that was built with the children. And I just find those two elements missing. I don't know if it's just Salinas or if that's everywhere, but they need to have officers visiting the kids firsthand. I know they reach out in different community events, and I really appreciate a lot of what I hear that is going on here in Seaside.
Right.
So I just want to applaud the mayor
Absolutely.
and everyone.
I agree with that. Ms. Penelva?
Yeah, your question earlier actually made me think about location of this event, as I think it's really important. In the future, it would be nice to have this event on campus, so more students would be able to attend. Their voices are really critical and important, and I'd love to hear what they have to say as part of this. I did want to bring something up. I'm so grateful for policemen like Police Chief Borges and Hopkins. That's not what college students are seeing, though. They're seeing the Chauvins that have been portrayed and so forth. And so it reminds me, Chris Rock used to have this joke about policemen and saying, like, you can't have one bad apple on the police chief, on police crew. Can you have a bad apple with airline pilots? That would be really bad. You shouldn't have bad apples with policemen. And so that strikes me today because I think, that's what's sticking out in young people's minds, not the Nick Borges, not the Randy Hopkins. It's the bad apples that are sticking out, which we can't have.
Good point, and more the reason to have that registry, so that when you find that a police officer in one community has been asked to move on, fired, terminated, whatever the case, have them on the registry. If it had to do with something on the level of a violation, because we don't want them ending up somewhere else. I know I've worked in this field for not generations, Mr. Mayor. When I was back here doing something, he came back and said, 4 generations, didn't you mean? That's why he's such an awesome mayor. He really hears everything. And at the end of the day, it's about us all working together and acknowledging and realizing that we all need each other. We all need to work in that effort. So generationally, things are passed on. In law enforcement, Things are passed on, family to family. My family has worked in the system for years, and we've seen a lot of ugly, and systems broken. But this is how, in my opinion, we help to fix it. We have a question here. Quick.
I would like to direct this to Dr. Penalver. Do you have any educational programs to help educate the brown and the black youth so that they know how much they have in common? You know, we have common ancestors, common history. You know, the ancestors were doing a lot of intermarrying, and intermarrying even now. But are there any educational programs, you know, that are being taught at the university level, at the high school level, and even the elementary school level that I think could help, you know, mitigate some of all of this anger and violence, you know, that they're taking out on one another?
Absolutely. Good question.
I can only speak on behalf of universities, but education I gotta be careful how I say this here. Because of issues like donors and funding, educational leaders are saying we want to stay away from politics, and this becomes political, social justice issues, diversity issues. It should not be. Bell Hooks said education is innately political, and it is. It's a way for social mobility. So is this happening in K through 12? To my understanding, I don't think so. I can't speak strongly on that. In higher ed, it is happening a little bit, but it's starting at the faculty level. So this isn't anything that necessarily faculty are trained on, but there are different people who are experts in social justice efforts who train their fellow faculty members. This is really important at a school like CSUMB. We used to have a large black student population. I can tell you it's less than 2% now of the CSUMB students. I can count on my hands how many black students there are, unfortunately. A lot of which, there's a lot of reasons why, but they don't feel comfortable at CSUMB. And so there are programs to help retain black students. Mandela Mentor, I'm a Mandela Mentor. There's the African American Staff Heritage Alliance Group, which is an effort to train faculty and staff in order to keep black students. But there's so few black students that it's my perception that Latinx individuals on campus, Latinx students, aren't seeing themselves as relatives or related in some kind of way because there's so few. You encounter, I can't remember the last time I saw a black student at CSUMB, unfortunately, just in my daily workings. It's tragic, really. But I'm saying all this, I'm saying this long-winded way of answering your question. That's not being done well.
So, full disclosure, that's something that the NAACP Executive Board, Executive Committee acknowledged, researched, found out specifically issues surrounding CSUMB. And I remember when I was supporting CSUMB and helping to develop the mentorships, programs, and marketing, there was over 1,200 students there, 2014. Today, there's only 163 black students, African American students there. It's plummeted. Equally, staffing, both professors and staff, has decreased so tremendously. It's just awful. We just lost three. Three just decided to leave. So at the end of the day, I mean, we must be honest. We must look at everything. We can't hide. We can't shun and not deal with the facts. But then once we have the facts like these, we need to do something about it. The Executive Board Committee of the NAACP met with Dr. Quinones with 9 points surrounding these very areas, and how we, most importantly, can help market to students, talk to the university staff and individuals of how to engage with those students, how to help retain your awesome staff that we have here that we've lost. I'm heartbroken by 3 people that I know that are both friends and colleagues there that have just decided to leave. So at the end of the day, we need to have the conversation. We need to identify what's happening, what's wrong, and then we need to get together and make some decisions to do something, and then we need to do it. We can't just continue to talk about it, because as we simply just talk about it, we lose more students, we lose more staff. So that's what this is about too today. So in the area of teaching, healing, learning, you've just been made aware of absolute information happening on campus at that wonderful college. But I know we can do better, but we need to work together. One thing I mentioned to Dr. Quinones was, it isn't about the president, it isn't about you. I said it's about the university. This university belongs to the community. So can we help you deal with the festering and the issues on campus? I don't expect her to do it all, but we all need to be accountable and transparent. And that's one reason why our NAACP board met with her twice, our committee met with her twice. And she was receptive to working with us. And we understand that there's already a higher number of students enrolling now. Will they, yes, that deserves a hand clap, yes? But the question is, will they complete that whole process? They're simply in the process. So from the numbers I understand that are in the process, it'll increase almost at least 60% of what they currently have. So let's see what happens there. You have a comment?
And I just want to make clear, this isn't just happening at CSUMB, it's happening across just higher education landscapes in general.
All over the country.
Yes.
Yes, yes it is. It's happening everywhere. And that's important that we acknowledge and know that. So we, before we, oh geez, we're already there. We're actually just over our time, because now, not only do I want us to thank these 2 awesome esteemed panelists here, I would like to, my goal this year was to stay on time, on task, and on target, because I just want to make sure that we acknowledge some awesome people that have worked towards helping to make this happen, and every year have been a part of it. And Congressman Panetta provided me a certificate for them, so I want to ask the Mr. Mayor, would you please come up? So you'll be a part of this. We have one last question.
Well, it's not really a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
I grew up in Seaside. I'm still a resident of Seaside. I've been gone for many years. But I think part of our problem is that the history of Seaside is not being told correctly. How we grew up with the military families, and that we were a rainbow coalition. When I talk to students at CSUMB, Hartnell, MPC that come from some other place, and I tell them about how I grew up in Seaside, they don't believe me. When I went away to college, people didn't believe that there were any black people in Seaside, you know, and that I was some kind of phenomenon. When I went to Europe, they told me that I was only over there as a showpiece to prove to the Europeans that blacks were not slaves anymore. But as far as Seaside, like I said, when I talk to CSUMB students and tell them that we've had 6 black mayors, that we've had a city council member in the 1940s that was black, that the reason that Seaside is what it is because my parents wanted to buy in Pacific Road, but we were redlined. So everybody wound up in Seaside. But the opportunities we had, And I graduated from Seaside High School. I had a black counselor, we had a black principal, we had black teachers. You know, all of the black students were running the school. Had cheerleader, had song leader, had drill team, ASB president, vice president. I myself found out that when I went away in my career, I've managed affordable housing across this country. Affordable housing is synonymous with police. I've had my life threatened. I've had a gun put on my head. I've had, you go to work with a security guard that has a double-barrel shotgun. That's not Seaside. So I want people to just understand that you are unique. Seaside is unique. Monterey County is unique. And I certainly do appreciate the police officers who have continued to bring forth what I learned when I grew up here and not rely on the stories that have been made up about the community that I love. And thank the police officer again so much for what you're doing now.
Thank you. And on that note, eloquently stated, and again, the facts. Anecdotal information that I'm very much aware of as well. And to evolve to, in my opinion, a time where it's just awesome and wonderful to acknowledge people that made this happen today. I want to take that time to do it. Before I do that, I would like us to give these two fine esteemed panelists a hand. So we received a resolution commendation from the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. I was honored to be asked to come and receive it and share information in regards to that. What's important about that is these commendations, these resolutions aren't happening in a lot of communities. But yes, they're happening here. So I applaud Monterey County. I know them all, and I spoke to them and I said, thank you so much. This is a start so that we can start acknowledging the rights and the wrongs in our society today and then do something about it. So this resolution is going to be bestowed upon our committee, names that you saw earlier, that's in your brochure. And because most of you worked with me for a year just to make all this happen. And we're all volunteers, and most of you work. And you take time off your work or from your family to help us with a huge, important area of learning, teaching, and then healing. And because of that is why I want to read some of the resolution. So Monterey County Board of Supervisors, resolution to adopt a resolution recognizing on May 25th, 2024 as George Floyd Remembrance Day. So that's historical. It'll go down, yes, we should be clapping at it. Today is that day. Whereas George Floyd tragically lost his life on May 25th, 2020, sparking a global movement for racial justice and equality. And whereas George Floyd's death resonated a necessary conversation about police brutality and systemic racism that's in our society today. George Floyd was a beloved son, brother, father, friend, and known for his gentle spirit and positive impact on his community. Whereas we honor the memory of George Floyd not only for the tragic circumstance of his passing, but also for the life he lived, the change his story has endured. And whereas a vital to continue the fight for racial justice and ensure that such a tragedy will never happen again. That's one reason why we're here today, is to not ever forget. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Monterey County Board of Supervisors, on behalf of the county and all residents, therefore honors May 25th, 2024 as George Floyd Remembrance Day in Monterey County, passed and adopted on the 21st day of May, and it's signed by all of the Board of Supervisors. So let's give them a hand. I told Wendy I would share this. I am going to call up the board members, the community volunteers that worked with me on making this happen, because this is for all of you that I share, and for these individuals standing here today, because they are our leadership, and we need to embrace and support them in their efforts. And I heard a lot of wonderful things that they're doing. I happen to know some of what they're doing, but I'm impressed and looking forward to some of the areas that they state that they're going to move forward on. So if I call your name, if you could sprint to the stage, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm trying to get us in and done on time so that you all can have a time to chat with each other. We also, just for the record, we have an opportunity for those of you that would like to take some food, and we ordered quite a bit so that everybody had something. So we'll know that that can happen. First, let me call up Mayor Marianne Carbone. Secondly, please have Mr. Isaiah Thompson. Come on up. Ruthie Watts. Ms. Watts, can you come on down? Pillar in our community, working on an effort in so many communities. She was a friend of my parents. If my parents were alive, they'd be here today. We used to live, I was born here in Seaside. I used to live by the water tanks. We owned a lot of the land in some of the apartments there, and lived next to Herman Edwards and such. And Miss Watts and Miss Ruthie Watts and Miss Rucker were awesome, wonderful people that I remember back then. Now, this person's going to be really surprised, but he has for 12 years volunteered to continue to video everything and put it out everywhere. And we appreciate it. We appreciate you. Wes White, please come on. That level of volunteerism is tremendous. And he is a member of the NAACP. Dr. Raciel McWaters, please come on. Dr. Shira Diallo. J.L. Osborne, please give this man a hand. He is our right-hand person in the community, doing so much. Malika Velasquez, everybody's seen her running around here. She's been working with us on the community. Everywhere. You know, she's a trustee for Monterey County Unified School District. Mr. Bert Johnson, one of my committee members on Black Space. And you know, he's done everything, corporate as well as nonprofit. We so appreciate you and all that you do. You're at all the meetings we need you to be at to help us keep it real and make it happen. So thank you so much. Ms. Yvonne Thomas. Derek Elder. I just saw him. He's been working with us in this program for 3 years. He was one of the first guest speakers, helped to break it down, relating to what the mayor and so many others within the city council said they needed to do to reimagine policing, and that's part of it. His position is part of that. So when he does come back, we'll definitely have him receive this. Patricia Spencer. I love seeing surprise. We're in so many committees together, and I just never told her. She said I should have. Christina Medina Dirksen, I know she was here earlier. Her children, I know they needed to go somewhere, but she's just doing so much in this community, a former council person as well. And I believe, yes, let's give her a hand, even though she's not here. Dr. Renee Penalver. But if you're on this committee working for a year, my goodness, if you can continue to do it for a certificate, believe me, we'll get some more. Rosalind Green. She's not here? Okay, Rosalind, give her a hand. She's doing a lot in the community. Well-deserving. Black Caucus, I mean, what is she not doing? You know, MPC, etc. Okay, please give them a hand. Thank you. Thank you for all your help, all your volunteers. Thank you so much for when I called at the hour of the night, you said, yes, you'll help. And because of that, we have this. My heartfelt thanks to all of that, for all of that.
Let us give the coordinator this evening a standing ovation. She did an outstanding job. Congratulations.
My goodness, coming from this pillar of our community, believe me, that really means a lot to me, Ms. Watts. When I grow up, I'm going to be like you. So, if you have an opportunity, in closing, take a look at this brochure. A lot of wonderful, great people, a lot of wonderful opportunities that you experienced today that you helped to make happen. You might have thought all these people that I recommended to Congressman Panetta's office, you thought maybe it might have been too many. But it takes a village to make this happen. As I mentioned before, I never will unsee George Floyd. And as the mayor and as the chief said, it was appalling. We can't forget that. But I also want us to remember this, because this is how we get it done. This is how it happens. And I believe that Monterey County, and specifically as the core of Seaside, is a pilot program for what this nation needs to be doing. Do you agree?
Absolutely.
So if you do, for those of you that took pictures, I request that you place it on your social media and talk just a little bit about what you saw and what you experienced here today. Because that's how we educate people. The theme was teaching, learning, and then healing. We'd like to continue to do this in other communities. We must. What is the alternative? The outcomes, I believe, will be like this if we continue to just to believe. Ms. Glodean is going to be here doing a specialty. There she is. Let's give Ms. Glodean champion. She'll be here. We have an opportunity to have a great benefit for the Helen Rucker Center for Black Excellence. We have these awesome professional paintings. If you haven't had a chance, take a look at them. We're going to auction them off now. So take a look at this. This is all going to benefit a great program. If you want to come up and look at it closer, so Mr. Elder can stand right there in the middle there. It's something that's a labor of love, and as I said, Dr. McQuarters provided. So we'll start maybe with the first bid.